Nathan, is Phil coming on today too? Who all on here?
Here almost every.
Good afternoon. I'm interested. Hi, Miss Dina. You can tour Holloway House Monday through Thursday from 12 to 6 p.m. Or we're having an event on August the 1st here at Holloway House, and you can register for that event. It's called Bellinis and Babies. You can register for that event online. We'll have a lot of speakers here and doing tours of Holloway House and talking about the direction for our organization for the next 10 years. So you can find out all that information through online, through rosemarysbabies.co. Same to you, Mr. Freeman, if you wanted a tour. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna be here, but I will be at the August 1st event. Sounds great. And be sure to tell the people in North Avondale, it's an invitation only, but everybody's pretty much welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry I'm seeing things. I apologize for delay. Multitasking. Greetings, Roz.
What's up to everybody in the chat? What's up, Damon? I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. Get everybody backstage. And with that, we are back. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Thanks for I hear echo. You guys hear that too? All right, I may have to unplug and then replug at some point because that is just killing me. But good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Nathan Ivy with you. Welcome back to Hot Mic Cincy. And to the chat, we appreciate you as well. I see many people were here for the pre-show. Appreciate everybody. Alandis Powell is scheduled to join us. Phil Heimlich is scheduled to join us probably around 2 p.m.-ish, somewhere around there. Matter of fact, speaking of Alandis Powell, she is with us now. There she is. Hey, Alandis.
Hey.
What's going on?
Not much. What's going on with you? Sorry, I'm late. Oh my God, it's 3 women on you.
Echo.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that echo's coming from me. I'll try to do my best about that. But good afternoon, everybody. Let me introduce everybody. Let me start with Rosemary. How you doing, Rosemary? Good afternoon.
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me again.
Absolutely. You still sound a little low.
You think I sound low? It's probably me.
Yeah, it still sounds low to me.
Okay. Do I sound low to everybody? Let's see.
Is that me making the echo?
I think that might be you, Terrence. Do you got the show on in the background or something else?
Can you hear me now?
I hear you. Just a lot of feedback, and it's coming from all over the place. Hold on, let me reset everything real quick. Chat, bear with us for a second. All right, just reset. May have it, it may not. It will. And things will be better. More introductions. How are you? Thanks for your time today.
What are you talking about?
Can you hear me now? Ooh, way too loud.
It still got that echo.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'll try my best throughout the rest of the show.
Change microphone. Down the sound. Tamaya, you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Why don't we try everybody, at least everybody mute once, so we can see if it's a particular individual when they're talking.
So I've been muted the whole time, so I'm gonna go back on mute. Is it happening now?
No. Looks like it's gone.
Is
Like
it
it's
me?
gone?
It was Terrence.
I'm still hearing it.
I was gone for a second.
Ross Wright sounds like somebody got on a wire.
That would be Terrence.
How would you know what a wire sounds like?
Yeah, he the ops.
No, not the elephant in the room. No.
Can you hear it?
To the chat, I mean, how does it sound to you? Yeah, I could definitely hear it.
I didn't hear when Alandis
I'm
was
not even on the
talking.
mic no more. I'm not even on the mic anymore. Because I unplugged
Right.
it.
So you unplugged it, so you're just coming straight to your computer.
Yeah, and I don't even have it on my phone either. I don't have anything going. Here, I'll leave out and come back in.
What about
Hey,
now?
Diane, good to see you. What about now? Sounds
I
better.
don't hear it. See,
Yeah,
it
it might
wasn't
have
me,
been-
Kevin. You try to throw me up. It's
See?
terrorist, analyst, and
Hey, you was pointing at yourself.
I said, is it me? It's me. It's back again.
When you stepped away, Rosemary, we didn't hear it. So it's an echo on your
So is
end
it still
somehow.
echoing?
Do you have your app open? Do you have your the social media Facebook?
No apps, nothing
I don't have
open.
anything on.
Nothing open.
Nope, I don't even have it on
You
my
were saying it's
phone.
really bad with the echo, so we definitely got to deal with it.
So, but when I had my phone on, was it still, when I had it plugged in, was it echoing? Hold on. Let me, hold on.
Hey, Eloise. What's up, Janice? What's up, Pamela? What, Brenda? Sea Breeze, Regina. Good to see you. Diane, Michelle, Kim. Good to see everybody. We're going to try to get this thing started. First time we've ever had echoing problems like this, but again, this is not a perfect science. Hopefully, it'll get better.
I think it might
We can't hear anything you're saying now, Rosemary. I'm going to close stuff on my end as much as possible.
So, can you hear me now?
I definitely hear you, yes.
Is it echoing?
No echo.
Okay, so I put on echo cancellation in your apps and noise suppression. So maybe that'll.
Okay.
Is that working?
Yeah, I've got those on as well. All right, cool. Well, maybe that's what it is. Okay, great.
It's Phil's fault. That's what John said. It's Phil's fault. Feeling.
It's Phil. It must be Phil.
I'm like,
Must be
wait.
Phil. Hey, Sierra. Somebody says it was Miss Denard. That's what Dina says.
That's what they always say.
Shahira writes, no, it was still there without her. Don't put it on her. It was a little less, but it's still there. Okay. I think everyone should go all the way out and come back in. Nathan, I think your audio is coming from the wrong mic. It is coming from a different mic. I did that purposely.
Okay.
Armchair audio. Oh, that sounds really good, Nathan. Right? That one
It sounds better now. It should sound better. All right, great. It should sound better. Hey, Dina. Thanks, John. Thank you so much. Well, listen, we spent enough time on that. Let's get straight into it. There's a lot to talk about. I'm not sure if we'll get to every topic, but I'm going to try to give us like 10, 15 minutes per topic and just like stick and move and hopefully get through everything. Unless we get into some heated conversation. I love emotion, and we might just be there for a second. But there's a new law in Ohio. Let's start with local stuff, Ohio and Cincinnati first, and let's branch out to the other things. But there's a new law that just got passed or just been signed by the governor, Mike DeWine, which stipulates that if you're a passenger in a vehicle and the police pull you over, even if you're in the back seat and you've got nothing to do with driving or anything, you now have to identify and give your information to police officers. Before, to my understanding, it was just the driver. But now it's everybody in the vehicle in Ohio. So if you get stopped and they ask you for your ID, you have to give it to them, or you're looking at like 30 days jail time, $250 fine. And here's my question. Like, it seems like in Ohio, we're giving police more and more power, right? In return for feeling, I guess, more safe, because everybody's talking about crime and people feel unsafe these days. But what do you think about this idea? Like, is this the tool? Are we now giving police the tools that they need to go after the criminals? Or in your opinion, is this starting to encroach on people's personal freedoms? Somebody other than Kevin starts, because Kevin always starts us out.
I definitely think it's a violation of people's rights. I think there's an encroachment on people's freedoms. And I don't think that this law, I have to look, I don't think that this is constitutional. So I'm not sure if not a lawyer, anywhere close, but I think that this doesn't, I don't know if this can be upheld. I don't know if there's any sort of litigation against this, but I think this is in direct conflict with the Constitution. But whether it is or whether it's not, yeah, I agree with you. I think there is a move to give more police power, and I think it's not coincidental, as we've seen in the past few years, more civil rights cases, more rights to everyday folks. This is another attempt by the Republican Party to erode people's freedom. So, yeah, I think it is an encroachment. Whether or not it's a violation of the Constitution, I'm not 100% sure.
All right. Anybody else? What do you think?
I would definitely say like it's pressing on just issues that we're going to see arise. I've looked into both sides. It's not against the Constitution, and they took the proper steps and channels to make sure that it wasn't a violation. Of course, I'm sure somebody's going to file some type of lawsuit because they have a right to do that, but it's been signed into law. It's not due to be implemented until this fall. But I guess along the same lines of that, because I was talking to somebody about it before jumping on the show, they also passed, the governor also passed House Bill 20, that basically says you have to be at least 15 feet from an officer when he's, trying to, when he's, citing a ticket or trying to handle police business. So now you have to be 15 feet within an officer because you'll get a first degree misdemeanor and then so on and so forth. I think that some of this stuff is being brought on because there's people in the cars with warrants. I also think some of these things is being brought on because when police are trying to officiate business, we got people with cell phones believing that they are lawyers on the street, and it's causing additional havoc for law enforcement. But when you add these two laws and you put them in comparison or with the new what is that, the what do you call that we were just talking about the other day, the with the policing when they pull people over, I'm sorry, bias policing. When you put that into place with these two laws, I can just see an increase in problems.
Yeah, I think that when something quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And at the end of the day, what we all know is that lawful stops is the only way they're allowed to request your license. It has to be because of a lawful stop. It's a lot of stops that aren't lawful. But once you get my ID, if I'm wanted or if I have any problems or whatever, it is stop and frisk in a different manner. And we continue to keep going across that line. And it is no reason to do that to people. It is truly just stop. It's not, it is just really stop and frisk at the end of the day. But it in the law, it says that it has to be a legal stop. And how many people have been stopped for not a good reason?
Yeah,
I think.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this would be a perfect topic for somebody like Fanon or an attorney to be able to talk about this, on this particular topic, because I wonder is that, by law, you don't have to identify yourself unless the police have you believe that you are in the commission of a crime, right? We've gone through this several times on the show where you have to legally identify yourself. Like, most people are of the mind, say, hey, if the police stop you and they ask you for your ID, you ought to just give it to them. Well, if they don't have a reasonable suspicion or catching you in the act of doing a crime, legally, you do not have to identify yourself, right? That is the law. Okay, so what I would be curious to is if I'm a passenger in the car, and let's just say they pull, Nathan, you and I are in the car and you drive through a stoplight. So they have a lawful reason for stopping you and asking you to be identified as the driver. What is the legal case for asking anybody else in that car to be identified as well? I wasn't driving. I wasn't the one who drove through the traffic light. What crime am I involved in that as a passenger in that car, you're asking me for my identification? So this is why I think it'll be interesting to see how attorneys are going to dispose of this law in these cases, because my suspicion is as they start to enforce this, and more than just quote unquote colored folk are the ones who are subjected to these in-car ID situations, I think you're going to have a lot of legal challenges to this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
That's what I was going to say too. Just it's another way for the justice system, the criminal justice system, to make some money for the people who are educated enough. If they get stopped and it's an unlawful stop, you can let your attorney know that. Your attorney can fight that, and then it just creates more revenue for the public defenders, police officers, giving them more power. So I for one, I don't see anything wrong with if you're riding in a car with someone and you get pulled over, if the police ask you for your ID, just give them the ID. I don't see nothing wrong with that. I do understand everybody else's position, but personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. If I get pulled over by the police, or if I'm in a car with somebody who's getting pulled over by police and they ask me for my ID, I'm reaching in my wallet. I'm going to comply.
Yeah, I think that we need to be careful. We need to be very careful about all this teens gone wild and black teen takeover. They won't use it, but that's the imagery. Because there are people out here that want to erode your freedoms under the name of keeping you safe. And I hear what you're saying, Terrence. Like, if you don't want to give it up, that's your right. But it's called the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure. The way that it's always been read is that If you don't think that I am in a commission of a crime, then you can't talk to me. I mean, like Alandis said, how is this any different than stop and frisk? What's the difference in all practical terms? I think we should be very careful about that. But there's a lot of people who are willing to give up their freedoms little by little in the name of being safe. And you might look up one day and be living in a completely different type of environment that you just slowly allowed yourself to be a part of. So, I mean, I get it, but I'm just wondering why now. And here's what it is. There's a lot of videos of not just black people, but like white people. They call themselves sovereign citizens. They do these audit stops where the police pull them over and they videotape it and they challenge them. And I think that law enforcement got tired of it. They got tired of it. So they complained to politicians who were sympathetic to them and they got the law passed. Doesn't mean it's the right thing for the citizens, but I mean, if you're a police officer, I can understand why you like this, because now you get information on everybody in the car at one time, and you don't have to deal with the hassle and inconvenience of somebody challenging you. But isn't that what America's all about? Being challenging, challenging authority.
Yeah,
that's just my take on it.
Yeah, so there are some real. I mean, I think to some degree, some of the points that that Rosemary brought up. Look, there are some very real additional challenges that police departments face with regard to sort of this internet, social media, auditing police environment that do create extra work. So, we've seen things like public records that, were more, that used to be readily available to quote unquote your traditional mainstream media. Now, law enforcement agencies have successfully been able to push laws to get some of that stuff not to be so easily accessible, at least not without paying a considerable fee for the time and effort that it takes police to produce this, where you used to just kind of be able to get this, for nothing. More recently, scanner traffic is being encrypted now because you've got a lot of these, these quote unquote social media types who listen to police scanners and put different things out, some of it incomplete information and whatnot. So I think the nature of our technology and the changing environment have created some understandably difficult and challenging things for police departments. But I think some of the ways that lawmakers are reacting and trying to deal with that are not the best for transparency and are definitely not the best for our personal and individual freedom. So I think there's probably a more nuanced area or nuanced ways that you can deal with some of these challenges than what some of our state lawmakers have been doing.
And then the second part of that Rosemary brought up is linked too. So what's the problem with somebody standing 12 feet away from you, video recording what you're doing? You're public servants. Why do we have to be 15 feet away? And here's what I don't understand is this. If it was such a problem with people sort of interfering, because that's what they'll say, they're interfering with police work, then just arrest them. It's called obstruction. So it sounds to me like you've got some people who are surveilling police officers that are within 15 feet, and they're really irritating the officers. They ain't really interfering, they're irritating. And, irritation is a part of the job. If you don't want to be irritated by the public taking videos of you, then don't become a police officer. Go do something else.
Have you seen some of these videos? I mean, and again, I'm just talking about the instances that we see online. In the protection of the police, I may not be for you asking for identification of everybody in the car, but I do think that, there are already laws in place, like you said, about interfering and impeding on police business. But at the same time, these people are getting super close. They trying to stop them. Even with, the shooting of like the ICE person, that person was all up in their face. Some of these people that are trying to get content, and when you got 15 people that's up around the police trying to get information, it's one thing if you really are 15 feet away. It's another when you are all up in these police business. Really
Absolutely
close
not.
to these officers.
No.
Even when you look at the video, there was one that this officer was trying to pull somebody over in a parking lot or something. They had stole something. The mama and the sister, like right there, like 3 feet. And again, I'm not talking of every instance, but I am talking about some instances that are highly dangerous. the police trying to tase people, again, they still have a right to do their job without imposition. This law, I think, wouldn't have been necessary had we not been in an environment that we're in now. Back in the day when the police was pulling somebody over, we wasn't trying to go nowhere near them. But now these people are getting in their face. They are making sure they're recording close enough you can see everything, and it is impeding upon law. And I want to check.
No, the reason, let's back up. The reason why we're in this
Please
position
back
we are
up.
in is because police are racist, and it's a racist institution, and it's an upholder of white supremacy. Let's go to the real reason why we are where we are. And we've let white people and police run amok for so long, and we can't be capping for them at this point. The reason why we are the way we are because police have been violating people's rights, and people are tired of it. That's why we are where we are. It has nothing to do with police and standing close to them. And I think we're letting police off the hook. And the reason we have these laws in the first place is because police are overwhelmingly white people. If police weren't overwhelmingly white people, we wouldn't be capping so hard for their protection. So I want to be clear about why we are where we are. It has nothing to do, it has more to do with police and their treatment for hundreds of years of Black people and people of color. And we're taking the onus off of that and putting it on, we're standing too close. I think that's a cop-out. So absolutely not. We're not where we are to where we are. Now we can get upset because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and people are not taking it anymore. We have technology and we're using it. We're not letting police run amok, and we can't let people convince us that our violation of our rights are normalized. And that's what you're doing right now, Rosemary. You're saying
I'm
that
not. But what I am saying, no, I'm not saying that.
You literally just said the reson why we are where we are is because people are not responding to police the way they used to, and
They're
we're
not.
not. And you're
No, that is not. I can give you,
But
but I can give you an example.
Let's hear from Rosemary real quick.
If there's so many, I mean, and again, there are a lot of white police officers. So to do a blanket all
majority are
police,
white.
hold on, but to do a blanket all police or discriminating. So instead of saying defund the police, why didn't people say let's get more Black law enforcement officers to step in? And my thing is, why are we not intentionally and deliberately recruiting more Black officers? Why hasn't that been brought to the forefront in all of these years?
They have,
But
but
all
listen,
lives matter.
they're
If all
not just
lives
doing
matter,
this
just
to
say
white
that.
officers, they're
So
doing
let
this
me-
to Black officers
okay.
too.
If all,
But
we-
let me say,
go ahead, Alana. I'm sorry.
no, I'm
That's
just going to give an
bogus and it's overreach.
example, and a true example, and I hope my son doesn't get mad at it. And I want to be very clear. First of all, we are where we are because 50% of the people don't want us here. They showed it in our votes. They showed it in how they act. They don't want us here. And if we're here, they want us as low to the ground as we can go. That's first. Has nothing to do with the other stuff you're talking about. That's the first thing. We are where we are. The second thing is people with power, they actually sometimes don't know how to use it. And that's what causes so much pain. So my son, who is a fireman, who wouldn't have been a fireman, almost, because it only takes one thing to happen. Him and his friends, 6 in a car, wasn't doing anything, got stopped downtown, and they made them sit on their hands while they went through their car. He was younger. He had just turned 19. And as they went to walk away, they had found a little cigarette and put on top of his car, and he hit it off the car because he's mad. Because I have sat out here on my hands, embarrassed, didn't do anything, and he's the one who got arrested for littering. So you, and then for arguing, and you look up and he wouldn't have had a job. So when you start talking about how we're going to go recruit people, you have to make sure they have a job. They have the ability. So now what we've done is we've set ourselves up even more where we can ask anybody anything, and we're closing further in on that. So we keep violating us because even though the law is for everyone, the law is not implemented the same for everyone.
So how do we get more Black people in the police department? What is the resolution?
Well,
Do
I'm
we
saying
can
right
run the
now,
entire police
Well,
department?
first of all, did you hear what I told you the problem was?
What's the resolution? We all know
Okay,
what the
no,
problem
but
is.
hold on for a
What's the
second.
resolution?
You have to first agree with the problem.
I know that there's a problem, but what is the
You're
resolution?
not gonna get into it. You're not gonna get
And
into
the
it.
The
resolution
second thing is if you agreed with the problem, we
but
will
you
be
want to talk
talking
about the
different.
problem,
Let
but
me
you don't have
finish.
a clear
Let me
resolution.
finish.
That's
So
the
my
Democratic
resolution-
way.
one resolution
Just let me finish.
One resolution is
Okay.
to hire more Black officers. And
Then
how do we
why
get
would
them
it
in
be
there? We do
harder?
deliberate
Okay.
recruiting.
Okay, so can I say something to that point? Is you can't, if people don't have the ability to get the job because they actually have got in trouble with little things and they can't get a job in the police for it's all kinds of things. People set us up for failure right out the gate. And now you're just going to say, let's go hire some more. But now you put more legalism on stuff and you'll make it where even you move the pole further from us because people do discriminate against us. People who look like us discriminate against us. So I'm not even calling it black and white. It's not black and white. It's matters of the heart and matters of understanding the current environment where we are and how we do things, and don't always understand the full impact of what we're doing. So that's all I'm saying. My son went through it. He would, if he didn't have a mama like us that said, hold on, he almost tried not to tell us it was going on because he was scared because he got in trouble. He wouldn't be a fireman today. And that's what happens to these kids. And now we get to just stop them. So that's all I'm saying. When do we stop?
And I don't
Tell me where we
disagree with
stop
things
legally. Well,
like,
where do we
I
stop
have a
legally?
black son. My son lost in 1 year. My son lost 13 of his friends. One of his friends is sitting on death row right now. So I'm not talking like I'm oblivious to black problems or any kind of problems. But what I am saying is we still have to be able to work and can't just quit. We still have to work within the confines of the system. And some of these things to just throw it all away. So all I'm saying is how do we recruit more black police in Cincinnati? So why not go into the schools younger? They have the police cadet program and we're seeing younger people become more involved. So that's all I'm saying. We have to be able to match that too. And we have to promote that all police aren't racist. And if they get the job, these are great jobs too. So we have to begin to turn the page and encourage people in order to get them to join these types of forces and move into different positions and keep battling to get in those positions within the police force, within the courts, even within the government. We have to keep pushing those needles. We have to. And to just say they racist and we ain't got to keep.
And so we have to keep pushing them from a have to keep pushing them from a policy standpoint too. So you're just going to one thing. What I'm saying is the situation is broader than that. You have to be more strategic than that. And it's not just one thing. So you're saying one thing, but we're talking about how we're impacting from a policy standpoint based on what just happened with saying now I can actually ask everyone for their license. And
I agree with the HB 20 with the 15 feet. I don't necessarily agree with the other policy to search everyone. So that's specifically what I said.
All right.
Can I make a point? I was
going to come to you. Go ahead, Terry.
Reference. This is what you have, in my opinion, when I sit back and I watch discussions like this, you hear Rosemary come with a solution-based suggestion to this, I wouldn't even call argument, to this subject. It's like, so what can we do with this conversation? What can we do to move the needle forward to where we can get more black representation? And what I hear often from the Democratic side, and I hate it, and I'll say this and y'all don't get mad at me, I hear a lot of talk, a lot of problem. Let's identify the problem with no solution. And then the Democratic Party gets everybody so used to, oh, let's the party that we shall overcome. Let's go march at another rally, instead of actually putting people in position to make a change. And it's so there. And I know that we're going to get to that in the next topic, but this is what I see. I see in this example, we can go back and we can rewind this. You hear one person identify the problem. Yeah, we identify the problem. We all know that this is a problem. But then it might not have been a popular response, but Rosemary comes with a solution. Hey, how about we take this approach? And then instead of listening to it, it's just like, no. Here's a problem. And I see this a lot in the Democratic Party, and that's why, in my opinion, the Democratic Party doesn't move things.
You're talking about me. You weren't talking about the Democratic Party. And let me be clear. I didn't say that was one of the problems.
I'm talking about the Democratic Party. I'm not talking about you, Atlantis. I'm talking about the Democratic Party.
I said that wasn't. Well, you talked about what we said when Rosemary said
this conversation.
What I said was, and to be clear, it's not the solution. It's not the only solution. It is a huge problem, and we keep making it worse with policies that all of a sudden we keep putting more and more on ourselves and the fact that I know a lot of people tried to become a police officer and they couldn't. They weren't selected. They didn't pass the stuff. So it's not that simple. So solutions sound great. I've heard a lot of solutions from the Republican Party. It ain't worked.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. Let's be clear where we
This
are
wasn't a
and what we're
Republican
dealing
Party
with.
comment.
So
This was a
don't
Rosemary
let
comment.
make it like just. I'm talking to Terrence really quick.
Okay,
Don't
I was
just
about
make
to
it
say
about.
that.
I wasn't trying to say one solution. I was saying that solution has flaws for us as well. And unfortunately, I only have
Can I say this?
I agree. I agree. Hold on. Let me finish it. Let me finish it. She's talking to me, Kevin. Let me finish this. My observations on the outside looking in is whenever people in the Democratic Party, I'm not saying
Truly the outside.
I'm saying I'm not saying you. And hear me out. Hear me out. Whenever people who disagree or present an alternative perspective than the Democratic Party, they often, instead of listening, they attack it and they tear it down and they discredit it instead of listening and trying to work together and come up with some kind of solution. And then we saw that exact thing just happen on this program.
We didn't.
From your perspective, from my perspective, I saw that.
Okay, let me just say, no, we didn't. My issue with what Rosemary said was the premise, the reason she said we have this problem is because we don't, when the police tell us to stay a certain place, we don't stay there anymore. And I don't care if you identify as me. Oh, that's clearly what you said. But listen.
That's not what I said. I said you don't keep your distance. That's what I see.
So the problem with
my
problem with what Rosemary said is this. My problem with what she said is this. And to lead into what you're saying, Terrence, is this. Yes, I am going to tell you that if we're not defining a problem right, damn the solution that is presented forward. Like if you're not defining what is the issue, which I don't think Rosemary did effectively and accurately, then any solution that comes after that is null and void. That's my point. So yes, I'm not going to be problem oriented, but I am going to correct you when I feel like the problem that you presented is not correct and it's not factual. And I'm not. I don't care if that's a Democratic thing or a Republican thing, because clearly the Republican Party has all the solutions. Thank you, Terrence, for invoking that. But the problem is, what I'm trying to say is that the issue is if you say something that is factually incorrect, I am going to correct you, and I don't care what you think relative to the solution, because at that point, the solution isn't worth a damn, because the problem that you're trying to identify against that solution is wrong. So if that's a Democratic thing, then damn it, so be it. But she was wrong in her premise, and I'm going to correct her.
So why was House Bill 20 for people to stay 15 feet away while police are in doing their job? Why was House Bill 20 created?
I can tell you.
It was not a problem.
I can tell you.
You're saying it's solely because white people do it too. So it's not just black people. Well, white people have done it. Those Trump supporters, they was all beating up on cops and stuff too.
It's more than black and white, though. Black and white is a big part of it. Black and white is a big part of it.
Let her finish. Then come to Kevin.
It was because there was no distance, and it has become a problem with youth and people surrounding police when they are trying to do their job. That's why. And now they've made it official. You better stay 15 feet away. Even though there were already laws on the books, this is just another law that they slid in. And it's been signed into legislation. I was just letting people know, because we're talking about the seatbelt, but this law has come into effect too. And some people might have not even known it. So my job is to make sure that people know about the laws and education that are coming forth, to make sure we all don't get caught up if an incident happened and I'm trying to record and I get arrested because I'm 5 feet away.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So I think we got to recognize race is a part of the problem, but a lot of this stuff is bigger than race, because on some of these issues, it does cut across racial lines. In most instances, the problem is not the law. It's the equal application of the law, which is what we're talking about here, is that Black communities, Black individuals are often over-policed and subjected to the laws in more ways and more vigorous ways than white residents are. This gets back to the data from Campaign Zero just about traffic and police stops. So I think if you talk to most Black people, right, they don't have a problem with the law. If somebody breaks into your house, if somebody is violating a law in a certain way, we want that law applied. I hate it because when we get into this conversation about policing, there's this narrative that gets painted that like, oh, hey, black people are just for outlandish behavior and rogue behavior and anything goes. And that is a oversimplistic view of our rejection of an unequal application of the law. That is the conversation that is to be had. So to get to Tamaya's point about the origin of policing and where policing has come from and how it is evolved, policing in and of itself is not a bad thing, right? We need safety. We need people who are looking out for us. We need people who are protecting and going after and trying to catch the bad guys. But don't just do that to one particular group of people. Don't just do that in a particular neighborhood. Don't just up police presence downtown and around these areas where white businesses and white establishments are, when you got black people in certain neighborhoods in Cincinnati that are crying out for you to protect them in their neighborhoods from what's going on. So the issue is not the law. The issue is not policing. It's how it's practiced and how these policies are done are meant for specific groups. And that's what people push back against most often in these cases. And so it's not unreasonable to say, hey, when police are executing their duty or doing their work, there ought to be a reasonable perimeter around that activity. I mean, there have been plenty of times where police have been on the scenes, and as a member of the media, they say, hey, you can't come any farther than this. That's nothing new. Right? That's not new. Police have always set perimeters and boundaries around their activities that you can't cross, whether you're a private citizen or a member of the media or whatever. They have that right and that ability to establish a perimeter to keep you away from, one, getting hurt yourself, or two, interfering with the execution of what they do. I don't have that particular.
The law is redundant.
Huh?
So the law is redundant.
I think, I mean, one could say that. One could say that the law is purely, and people on the other side say this all the time, like, people are always coming up with policies, and you see this sometimes on both sides politically, where there are already laws on the books. There are already things on the books, but for political reasons, people feel like they got to put something out there to do something else that's unnecessary. So I would agree. This is an unnecessary law because police have always had the ability to set a perimeter and say, you can't come any closer than this. So, yeah, I mean,
but with all the news, with all this new stuff that's going on as far as like ICE stops and things like this, and like how,
which I want to talk about,
how inappropriate they might be, how unconstitutional these ICE stops and arrests might be. They're still okay. These police officers have these legislators in their best interest, not our best interest, not us, but these police officers, they have people who lobby for legislation for them. And these police officers are logically, are probably saying to these legislators, hey, this is a problem because people are overstepping their boundaries, getting close to us whenever we're trying to just do our job. I know we're not professional athletes. When we go to the free throw line, we're not having somebody yell at us, miss it, miss it, miss it. These are officers who are upholding the law that are there to do a job and need to stay focused. They need to stay focused. And I'm talking from an officer's perspective, from someone who's getting lobbyists to lobby in their behalf to get legislation who we vote for to write these things in law. So, yeah, on our side, yeah, this is kind of messed up. From a police officer standpoint who went through the proper channels to get this law enacted, what say them? Yeah, we can say this is bull crap all we want, but how do they feel when they're trying to do their job and they got somebody in their face with a camera and they're saying, back up, back up. Like, I ain't got to back up. What you going to do to me? Looking for a lawsuit, like act like don't have this stuff like that we're talking about, that just as much as this happens, people go out there looking for police to put hands on them so they can get a lawsuit. These are all things that, we're not taking into consideration, in my opinion. We're just spitfiring out, but it's deeper than just racial implications in here, because there's black cops that have to deal with this too.
All right. With that, I want to move on. So it happened again as we're celebrating 250 of this country's existence. It happened again, this time in Houston, where ICE killed a person who they thought was someone that they were trying to apprehend. I guess they thought that they were undocumented. Turns out it was the wrong individual. But nonetheless, now the family is left without their loved one. I want to play a little clip for you just to give people some insight as to what we're talking about here. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about this. Clip is from the man who has lost his life. This is his son talking about how he found out about his father losing his life to ICE as federal officials. My question for you is going to be, is one tragic just to start us, is one tragic mistake enough to rethink the entire system? There's some people saying that ICE needs to be abolished, but let me play this for you just a little bit, and then you give me your thoughts on it. Let me see one sec here. Here we go. Check this out.
On Facebook that he had been shot. I recognized him immediately. Not from his appearance, but from his voice, crying for help as he lay on the street, bleeding out. He did not deserve to die. He did not deserve to be reduced to a headline of Mexican man shot and killed by ICE. He deserved to live a quiet life as Lorenzo Salgado Araujo.
That was a little bit of the press conference with his son. His son was distraught. Very emotional story. So my question is one tragic mistake enough to rethink this whole ICE thing? And then secondly, and this is part of a broader conversation, are non-white people safe under this administration, in this environment that we're living in?
No.
You can answer any way you want to.
No, absolutely not. I don't feel safe as a Black, outwardly queer woman. I do not feel safe when I'm getting ready to go certain places. I look and see like what's the vibe of the city. I look and see if it's friendly toward people like me. I can't sometimes, even though I am a woman, a cisgender woman, born as a woman, identify as a woman, I get funny looks when I go into airport bathrooms within the United States because I travel a lot. So no, I absolutely do not feel safe. And as we think about the abolishing ICE, we also need to rethink the police system. I know we moved on from the last conversation, but people are dying, innocent people are dying every day at the hands of police and ICE agents. And we just need to rethink the system in its current form, both of them. So no, Black people are not safe. And non-Black people, non-white people are not safe.
I disagree with Tamaya a little bit, because here's what I say about ICE. Prior to Donald Trump, you wasn't talking about ICE, right? Barack Obama was known as the deporter in chief when he was a president, but you didn't hear about people dying under Barack Obama's ICE or even prior to that. So the issue is not with ICE. I'm not one of these people that's like abolish this or that. I get that that's the vogue phrase of the day, but I think that's also an extremist point of view on kind of looking at things, particularly when it's not about the agency in and of itself, but it's about who's running it and the agenda that they have. And what Trump has done to ICE in terms of recruiting unqualified yahoos that are not up to the duty, yeah, that's what you wind up with. When you put untrained yahoos with a maybe a racist Proud Boys mentality, or whomever these folks that Trump is recruiting who are unfit to even do this work, you're going to wind up with people dead. So it's not necessarily that ICE in and of itself is bad or has been bad, because again, we didn't even talk about ICE until Donald Trump politicized it and did what he's done to that agency. And nobody on here can say that that's not true. I mean, you weren't talking about ICE prior. You weren't. Yeah, Nathan, people weren't talking about ICE the way that they are today before Donald Trump.
You're
and
right.
You didn't hear about people getting killed by ICE agents under any other president. I mean, so this is what the current regime has turned that department into. And anytime you get bad leadership of any organization, you're going to see stuff like this.
I think it goes back to what we were just saying about policing, that it wasn't the law as much as how they use the law. And so when you think about ICE, it was the same thing. And they are not doing it fair and square, and it is not right. But how do you change it? You have to change the people, because it really wasn't all of the law piece. It's a lot of how they're executing it, to me, is one thing. And then I think the other piece is that, when we talk about are we safe or who's not safe and whether it's white or not, none of us is safe if you don't have enough money, because they stealing all your money. We allowed a criminal, and it doesn't have a color to it. It's just, we might have started off a little lower than some, but honest to goodness, no one's safe if you don't have money, because they are stealing our money. I know people right now who cannot get, because of Medicare and Medicaid, they cannot get their medicine right now. They were just stopped. That is not going to change right now. We elected, I say we because I'm a part of this thing called the United States, not we as in I voted for them, but this is what we've asked for right now. And the only thing we can do, if we're going to talk about solutions, let's talk about making sure we vote it out. Let's talk about making sure people don't go with one situation and that's what they vote for. They look at it holistically, take a step up, and then look at how it not only impacts you, but how it's going to impact your kids' kids. You look at it broadly, a lot of people might not have done what they did, but it is going to impact anyone who doesn't have the money to stand up to them.
I think people were killed by ICE agents while Barack did his heavy enforcement. In fact, 67 deaths higher than both Trump's administrations, right? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I just want to put that out there, that people were killed. But when we look at both administrations and both presidents' time in office, while Barack was in there, we were yelling and media was talking about tan suits. You know what I mean? And they were so focused on the discrimination against the president. If we want to look at it from an alternate standpoint under this administration, it is now an attack on this president as being the discriminator. So there's two different stories that were told under both. Barack was being attacked because of his race. Trump is being attacked because of how he treats people because of their race and identity. So that's why you're seeing different sets of media. So while some of the same thing might have went on under different administrations, we are looking at the president. Normally I don't like to say Trump, but we'll say the president, because nobody likes him. So they're going to report everything that he does in the media. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. I'm just putting it out there. The other question is, like, do I feel safe? It just depends on what day of the week is and where I'm walking. You know what I mean? If you're talking about here in Greater Cincinnati, my building is in North Avondale, and I leave up out of here at night sometimes, and it is very difficult because people are outside, they're doing whatever. I've had burglaries at my building, etc. I live on the west side. I went to a Walgreens the other night, and there was homeless people outside, people coming up against my car, and all kinds of things. There are people that say they don't feel safe downtown. I've walked around downtown at night and have never had a problem. I just think that it's depending on where you are and in what position. But overall, do I feel safe in Greater Cincinnati? I feel safer here than I would be in a Chicago or some other area with truly high crime.
That's a couple of things though. I want to say.
Wait, Nathan. Let me just say real quick.
I've already started. I want to make
sure that Rosemary throw it out. No, because I want to address with those.
I know, Kevin. I understand, but when I'm finished, I'll make sure you get in.
That was ChatGPT, not Rosemary's.
I've heard those
I get what you said, Rosemary, but context is important. There's a difference between.
Kevin, let me finish. I'm already speaking here. I know we both can't talk at the same time, bro. We both can't talk at the same time. I'm already trying to have the conversation.
I'm gonna get it out, brother. I'm gonna get it out. There's a difference.
So you can get it out, man, but we gotta have some decorum.
And being
somebody's already starting the conversation. Yeah, we gotta have some decorum. I'm trying to navigate, make sure people get in. So if somebody's already started,
I've been laying back in the cut. I'm just trying to get a response out there. I'm just trying.
I understand, but I'm trying to manage it so we all get in. not just you, not just me, that everybody gets heard, right?
I get that.
And
That's
part of
what I
that
said.
is, I just want to make sure I want to explain it. So part of it is I'm hearing who's jumping in first. And when I hear that first voice, I want to make sure they get a chance in. In this case, that's me. So let me land this plane, and then you can say what you got to say. So what I'm trying to say is, I heard your numbers, Rosemary, and I've heard people say those numbers before, but they're not really fair. So for instance, the number you gave about Barack Obama is over 8 years. And many of those people, if not all of those people, died in detention facilities. That's different than what we're seeing about people dying on the streets.
Get shot and killed like dogs.
Right. And then secondly, you said the number was 67 for Barack Obama. Is that the number you said?
That's what ChatGPT said.
That's right. I mean, ChatGPT is like 80%, so it's probably right.
I can't take that as fact. I'm just
right. But what I'm saying is, the last number, I just Googled it. The last numbers I looked at is that in the first 500 days of this administration, or the first 500 days of this administration, so far, 52 people have lost their lives. So if you're doing it on a year-to-year basis in terms of how many people are losing their lives, unfortunately, it seems like it's higher now than it was under Barack Obama. That's just a numbers thing. I could be dead wrong, but that's just what I've seen. But go right ahead, Kevin.
No, I don't have nothing to say.
All of that you ain't got nothing to say.
No, I said it.
Gosh darn it.
But even with that, if you look underneath his last administration, again, this last term, and I'm gonna say last term that this president is in, because everybody else is rooting for 2028. I have
nobody's rooting for that. I promise, nobody.
Well, again, ran on a Republican ticket, but other people are rooting for a 2028 for him. But underneath this administration, again, it just looks real different. You know what I mean? Like the numbers and everything, and a lot of the data that should be transparent, you can't find it. So that's a problem in itself too. If we're supposed to be transparent as a party.
Well, here's what.
So how do you find that information on what's actually going on? Because some of the information that is being put out, I got to admit, like it is very difficult to find, and some of it may not be as factual.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about under this administration. I'm talking about under this administration.
We shouldn't be throwing it out respectfully. We shouldn't be throwing it out there. We admittedly know that it's not, accurate. And I think, to Kevin, what your point was, context does matter. So while there might be 67 deaths, was it a heart attack? Was it after they went home? Like, there's a lot of things to think about as opposed to being shot in the street. So numbers are there, but context matters. So I think sometimes the trap of AI is that we get the number, but we don't get the narrative and the story behind it. So we just got to be careful with that usage.
Yes, so I do think that this piece, when it comes to the detention piece, so it's gone up like 70, 80%. I could be a little off though. It's gone up, but how many people there? But it has gone up 140% of deaths that are happening in detention right now. And that cannot be disputed. And that is part of this administration that's allowing that to happen. And that's not a Barack number. And I'm gonna go back. I don't understand why we always compare him to Barack, because Barack happened like Biden was in the middle. Like, I don't get it. And when we bring up the beige suits as Black people, what we should say is that we have allowed them not to just discriminate against us, but to almost make it a joke, or let it like it's okay and we just have to tell our kids that's what they're going to do, as opposed to saying, no, that's not what we're going to take. So we bring up this like it's okay. We're comparing, it's not even apples to apples really at the end of the day. But what we know is they've arrested people that shouldn't have been arrested. They went after people that wasn't criminal. They've killed people. They've left them to die without anything to eat under this administration. And that's nothing to play with. I'm light-skinned a little bit. I'm caramel. You could come after me a little. I hope you don't. But there's people that they've come after that had to go through that. And the mental piece of that is something you don't get through sometimes. And then we talk about why we act crazy. So I'm just saying that you really have to look at the whole thing. People are dying and they shouldn't, through this whole ICE and detention.
And let me say that I was very critical of Barack Obama, his immigration policies during that time. So I'm not in a cult. So I don't have no issue, correcting someone when they're wrong. But MAGA's obsession with Obama needs to be studied. Like you said, there was a whole president in between I don't even acknowledge him as such, the current person in the White House, and Biden and Obama. So I don't understand why we always got to go back to Barack Obama and we try to pull those things together when they're not even forget apples and oranges. They're not even the same fruit. They're not even both fruit. So I don't even understand why we just are obsessed with trying to make him the antithesis of Trump.
Because he is.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in? I've been quiet. I haven't said anything.
I got to be consistent. It's Kevin's floor. I got to be consistent. It's Kevin's turn.
Thank you. Everything, because Obama is the antithesis of what we're seeing right now, and it is what Trump compares himself to, and that is the reason why Obama is still being talked about, because he is the measure by which Donald Trump is obsessed and MAGA is obsessed with. And, context does matter, in a lot of these situations. People being shot in the street is very different than, and this is not an excuse for it. To Maya's point, Obama received criticism for some of the conditions and how people were kept in detention, when he was president. But the difference was you didn't see immigrants being shot in the street while trying to apprehend. Most of those deaths might have been related to medical issues. If you want to say, hey, maybe there were some substandard conditions in some of those facilities or neglect that maybe led to that. Okay, that's fair game. But I think that's very different than recruiting and enlisting a force of unqualified people to go out and round up illegal immigrants because of some political campaign that you had. What did people expect was going to happen? Nobody in their right mind would have believed that this was going to end well with all of the rhetoric that Donald Trump came to the table with, how he was recruiting and the people that he was putting in charge of handling this situation. There was nobody with any modicum of common sense who thought that this wouldn't be what we were going to be seeing, right? I mean, look, let's just be fair. You can like Donald Trump, you can vote for him. You have to be honest as an objective observer that nothing that man has done has gone smoothly. And in most cases, it's been a pretty much a catastrophe. Right now, he'll say, hey, we don't have the border crossings that we had under Biden. Okay. But what your ICE enforcement is doing has been nothing short of a colossal disaster. Dead bodies laid out in the street. Your Iran war, we know that that's a mess. There's not much this man, he can't even fix the reflecting pool. I mean, look, if we just gonna be honest, this man has not been a good president. And those are just the facts. And what we're seeing is a result of bad leadership.
Hey, Terrace, on you.
ICE kills the wrong man. Is this a tragic mistake in us for us to rethink the entire system? My mind first goes to black people killing black people every single day. When are we going to focus on that instead of worrying about some stupid ICE? That's my thing.
Stupid
Why can't
ICE?
we? Hold on. Let me finish.
You're right ahead. You're right.
Do I feel safe in this country, or do I feel safe in the greater Cincinnati area? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. What I hear a lot, and it's happening, it just happened again within this conversation. When the Democratic Party gets into their echo chamber of think tank, they only hear and they can only one kind of cognitive thought. But as soon as someone presents something alternative, they're like, that's stupid, that's not cool, that's not right, you're insane. Like saying, okay, in this particular situation, when we're talking about Barack Obama and people having hate for Barack Obama, if it wasn't for the hate of Barack Obama, there would be no Donald Trump right now.
Can I ask you a question?
If there was no hate of Barack Obama, there'd be no Donald Trump right now.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, and I'll go back to what I finished.
Okay, yeah, and I just want to ask you just really quick. So when someone presents information that is incorrect, we're supposed to just go with it. I want to just make sure I understand what you're saying.
When it's incorrect from your echo chamber, and it might not be. Hold on. Let me finish. You asked me a question. Let me finish the question. Let me finish the answer. When it's something outside your echo chamber, when it's a fact outside your echo chamber, could be fact in someone else's life. It could be a fact that white people went across. It could be a fact that the direct cause and effect of Donald Trump was Barack Obama. White people were so enraged that they had a black president that they elected a white man like Donald Trump, a racist white man, somebody who could get behind racism. That's a fact. That's in certain aspects, certain talking points. So if I get around a bunch of white people in a panel like this, and I ask them, I'm like, if Barack Obama would have never been elected president, do you think that the United States of America would have ever elected somebody openly racist like Donald Trump? They would have been like, no. Since Obama elected president, did that make you so mad that you did not want to have someone, you wanted to kick back and show people exactly how extreme you are? But then when you bring those talking points into Democratic circles, they reject those things. When these are the truths. And if it was not so, Donald Trump would not have won a second term. They doubled back to show you that this was a Barack Obama. They wrote books to show you that Barack Obama is the reason for why they're doing this. So when we get in Democratic talking points and we get in Democratic circles and these truths come out and then you reject them. No, you just got Barack Obama deranged syndrome.
Wait, can I agree with you really quick? So I'm going to agree with you on one thing. First of all, a lie can't tell the truth. There is no way for lies to tell the truth. You can't call them fact. I can't tell you that's how you feel. A lie can't tell the truth. So some of what you said might be accurate in your mind. It doesn't make it true. Secondly, if you honestly think the only way that he got the job was because of racism, as a black man, how did you vote for him? Like I don't know if you're listening to what you're saying, but you're actually telling us the only way he got in office was because a black man was a president and people doubled down on discrimination and you helped them. So I don't know if you're listening to you.
Yeah, I'm listening.
It's kind of like the strangest thing in the world. No, don't misspeak. Wait, let me finish.
I'll you want me to finish? You ask me a question. You're not giving me an answer. You're not giving me an answer. You said, why did I vote for somebody like that? Because the Democratic Party put up somebody like Kamala Harris, who was a horrible candidate.
I already know why you voted for him.
So why'd you ask me? So why'd you ask me to try to put me in a corner to defend myself again?
No, you're not listening. I already know why you voted for him. It don't mean you said the right thing, but I've watched you. I've listened to you. You said part of it was immigration. Part of it was this, but you voted against your own skin. And you just said that. This was the first time. Hold on. Have y'all heard him?
Fact and opinion. That's what you mean. That's what you mean. When you get into Democratic talking points, you'll say, yeah. When you get into Democratic rooms, you're going to say I voted against my interest. When I get into people who look like me and who think like me, they're going to be like, well done. We moved that needle away from the Democratic plantation. No, I did not. No, I didn't. Okay. I voted for him once.
This last time.
Okay, but do me a favor. Okay. Just for 2 seconds. I'm going to ask you not to interrupt me until I'm finished. Because what I asked you was, did you listen to yourself as you're talking through it? And what you said, you doubled, tripled down and said it 4 times because I listened, is that's the only reason he got the job. Is because of racism, right? And what I did is I didn't talk about all the things you talked about as to why you voted for him, which to me, together added up to be nothing. But I didn't talk about that. I said, you sat here and said, you know that you aligned with racism. You supported racism. And you just said that in front of us.
Okay,
you support. Hold on. Just tell me right now, because that's what you said people did. You aligned yourself to that. Does that make that a fact? Or does that make that your fact? Because you just told us that's why they voted for him. You aligned yourself. I didn't say that was the only reason you voted. You aligned yourself with that. So you might want to think about the other conversation is that people who do one cause and that's what makes them vote without thinking about the impact of everything, that to me is dumber than a box of socks. So you can keep saying Democrats this or I don't really care about Democrats or Republicans because now we are to the point of who supports right versus wrong. Who's okay with your money being gone and your kids not having who is emboldening people And as you start pulling things back from these police officers, you're giving some of the wrong people, because over 50% of them, we know by what they voted for. They ain't about us. And then some of them look like us that ain't about us. And the ones I worry about the most is the ones that look like us. Because then when it really comes down to it, we're going to have to protect Terrence. We're going to have to protect him when he actually didn't protect us. So that's what worries me. White people don't worry me.
Can I answer your question about the question about a fact and a lie?
I don't have a question.
I'm going to answer what you said. A fact is the Democratic Party in this 2024 election presented a lackluster candidate and gave her 100 days and tried to present her off as something that she wasn't, and she got ate apart. That's a fact. And then, and did I agree with the fact that you guys were putting up someone who does not identify like anybody who I grew up seeing as a Black person from a lineage of Black women and men who have been here since the 1800s that I've met and talked to. And then we got some people coming in here in the Democratic Party trying to give me something and force me, feed me something that I know is not to be true and that's not a fact. So yeah, you're saying a lie. Hold on, this last one thing. And you say I aligned myself up. I aligned myself up with the party. I aligned myself. And the Democratic Party has been the most racist party. The Democratic Party has been the most racist party. You say that. You say the party switched. The Democratic Party, only person that switched was Strom Thurmond. The rest of the 20 Democrats during that time stayed Democrat. And Robert Byrd was utilized by Hillary Clinton, and by Joe Biden was his privilege. Come on, man.
And I'm trying to get in between the two swinging ropes. What does this have to do with ICE unaliving a man?
That's what I just said. I did. You guys took it there. You said about ICE. I said I'm more concerned about black people with these young kids with switches.
Yeah, you switched the topic.
I am. Then I went back to the part about being unsafe, and then that's whenever
it's all good. All good conversation. I enjoyed it.
The hit. Because he baited me into saying what he said, and all of a sudden I had to say something to remind him that you're a Black man who just said you voted for racism.
You had to get your lick back.
Yeah,
Can I add some context?
Can
I add some context? I just want to go back to this, because this is a very important story. Because the way I look at it is, what our federal government does to any human being in this country, whether they were born here or they're in the process, is what they can do to every human being in this country. And I think that people don't see themselves in this story. I see myself in this story as a man of color. This man's name was Jose Salgado. And 54 years old. He'd been in this country for 30 years, raised his kids, businesses, all that kind of stuff. ICE has come out and since the situation and admitted that they weren't even targeting him. This man was on his way to his place of work, and he saw people behind him who were unmarked. They didn't identify themselves, chasing him. My question is, what would you do? I'm taking off. So he took off. They chased him down and end up unaliving this human being, and then said it was a mistake. Do you believe the government when they say that he tried to weaponize his car, and that's the reason why the ICE agents use the force that they use? Do you believe the story that the government is now saying about this man?
No, because
I bet people in MAGA do.
Well, of course they do, because they believe everything that Trump says. And this is the point that I try to make over and over again about why character and certain sorts of things matter in politics. Because when you have somebody like Trump who lies with impunity, and then you have people who are underneath him who kiss the ring and lick the boots and go along with whatever he says instead of setting the record straight and having integrity, you cannot trust anything that comes out of this administration. And that is the tragedy, right? That is the tragedy of where we are in this country right now, is you have a liar as the president of the United States that you can't believe. And there's already enough healthy skepticism about the government in general, no matter who the president is, right? Like, no matter who the president is, there's already kind of an unhealthy distrust that most American citizens have of the government anyway. We don't put too much past the government, no matter who's leading it. But now you got a cat, You put that on top of a cat that you know lies to your face every day on the smallest of things. And so could they be telling the truth? Absolutely, they could be telling the truth. Maybe they thought the dude was weaponizing his car and going against them. But the problem is that there's such skepticism under Trump that you're inclined not to believe it. And that is the real tragedy, I think, of where we are right now with our politics in this situation.
It's the okie doke. They stealing all your money. It is the okie doke. We paying attention to all these one-off things, and they are stealing all of your money and becoming not just billionaires. The 1% is stealing all of your money. While we talking about the one-offs, and Isom really got into that, they stealing your money. The truth is all follow the money.
Next
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. I don't think you're wrong about that at all. I mean, there's just a whole lot of stuff that I've never really seen on that level before. I've never seen some of the stuff I see coming from the federal government. And, you know, there's been a 50, 60, longer than that. There's been a long-standing plan to try to undermine people's confidence in their federal government. So there are forces out there that don't want to compete with the government, that don't want the government to put oversight on them, that can destroy it, erode it. I mean, it's all kind of stuff right now about consumer protections. There's this explosive diarrhea thing going on right now. We found out that the Trump administration cut funding for programs that were watchdogging it. So now this is in our food system. It's unprecedented what we're seeing right now. But I mean, you know, this is where we are. This is where we are. Let me go to the chat and try to get some chat in. Mr. Bond writes, the tax-paying business owner killed because of his skin. Yeah, I mean, it appears that Mr. Jose Delgado was racially profiled because they weren't looking for him, but yet they chased him to this tragic conclusion. So, and I'm only speculating here, but I'm assuming that they saw him. He didn't look white. They got him. They went after him.
Well,
and it's like,
Nathan,
if we wrong, we wrong. And if we right, we right.
I think the details might be a little bit more complicated than that. I think from my reading is that they were looking for somebody who had the same name as he did. Like that, like I don't think it was simple as they were just looking for a Hispanic man and ran up on him and got him. I actually think it was a little bit more, the details of it were a little bit more that he actually had the same name of an undocumented person with a criminal background that they actually were looking for. It just so happened he had the same name and no criminal background. I don't know if somebody has different facts, but I thought that that's what I read about the details of the story around how they wound up encountering him.
Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, wrong man.
Yeah.
Wrong man.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's just sad. And, you know, I think this is the reason why you didn't see Obama do it this way is because of like, it's like that bull in a china shop thing. You don't want to mistakenly break all these other things while you're trying to do whatever you've been ordered to do. So we are where we are. It is what it is. Let's come back to Cincinnati. I want to talk about, and this wasn't on the list, just maybe real quickly. And Terrence, you can chime in, but I know we got Rosemary here, and she's actually got a business in Avondale. There's been a lot of talk about businesses in Avondale, primarily Black-owned businesses in Avondale that have been closing. Several have closed over the last 9 months. And so I just want to know, Rosemary, I mean, you're in North Avondale. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna throw it this way. I'm gonna make a strong statement, and then you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Avondale and the North and that Avondale Township Center will never be viable. Y'all not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say it anyway to start the conversation. It will never be viable for multiple types of businesses until Avondale is gentrified. Landis, I saw the look. I'm just making a bold statement because that's what people are saying.
I mean,
that's what people are saying.
I'm going to say that is in a long-term plan with the city that so I sat on a commission for Avondale Development Corporation for several years as I actually was building Holloway House. And so I know internal stuff and I know external stuff. And what I will say is this, the parties that be knew these businesses were in trouble. These businesses that are in the town center that they put $42 million into to build, they had high rent. They had put into play these businesses that they created these businesses based on what was to come in Avondale. Because let's not forget, the corner of, what is that, the intersection of Martin Luther King and Reading Road was supposed to have hotels and you know, all of this infrastructure, and the consortium, UC consortium, that ended up backing out. Now the port is overseeing all of that land and development. And so there were certain businesses that went into that town center that may have been successful if all of these development things would have happened. But you ended up with some businesses that didn't have the people to purchase, and like they said, there was violence, but there was also rent issues. They knew about this more than a year ago. They knew about it when those people went into those spaces that they had leases on. Some of them had 10-year leases. I sat at the table and they knew it was coming. And then what happens, and I'm just going to complain a little bit about the way these things happen behind the scenes. You knew these businesses were in trouble. And instead of us implementing, like he said, okay, here's some things we can do right now to help. It was a lot of conversations on, okay, let's have this meeting. Let's put together this process. Let's pay $300,000 to partner with a certain organization, and I won't say which one it is, to hire somebody to do a research study. So while you're doing all of those things, we're not doing anything to help the businesses. So to see Zola's, to see the cereal bar, now the grocery store, I think there was a daycare that was in there. The pharmacy, all of these businesses are under constraints, and it is a huge problem, and more businesses will close. And the people that oversee that entire complex, as well as that are over the development and bringing businesses to Avondale, they know that these businesses have problems because the contracts that they have assigned are bogus and BS. And I'm speaking that from a perspective of, I've been presented with them and I know what that looks like when you sign some of these contracts. And it's not necessarily the port, or it's people that look like us that knew that these challenges were happening and they did nothing. They stood idle and they pocketed a lot of the money that could have been delivered to some of these businesses in order to keep them afloat.
You know, full disclosure, when they opened about, I think this was like
last year in February.
No, I was saying about my own experience I was going to share. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. Nah, it's longer than that. It was like 5 years ago. I was looking for a studio space, and I thought, you know what, I'd like to invest in Avondale. You know, I'm from the city, grew up all over. I want to invest in Avondale. And somebody told me about some open space over there for a studio. And so I went through the motions. I mean, had the contract, had a lawyer friend of mine look through it, couldn't afford it. I mean, it just wasn't the opportunity that, and again, I'm not saying anything negative about anybody. Just when I looked at it, I was like, y'all not giving me enough. I can't afford it. I can't afford the rent. And they weren't even paying for me to fully renovate because it was a space that was completely naked, had nothing in it. And I'm like, y'all not helping me with enough. I'm a small budding business owner. I just can't afford it. So I can't even imagine what the rent could have been in some other bigger spaces over there. You know, so I mean, it's like,
it's difficult. It's difficult to watch.
And that's a big
It's difficult to watch because what the port did was some places, and I'll speak on the port because I got my building through the port. Yeah. What the port did under some places, because the port has a nonprofit arm and they have a for-profit arm. So what they would do under the nonprofit arm, you might get or rent this specific space. Then they'll say, okay, I'll give you a loan, but I'll defer that loan payment for 5 years, right? And so you're like, oh, this is great. So I'm using that loan to fix up this space that I don't own, right? that I don't own. And then I got this high rent that I got to pay, but they're going to lower it for so much time. And so now you deferring all of this stuff because in your mind, if I make this much money, and I think that comes with long-term planning, all of the things they made me do to get my building, that those things aren't thought about. The marketing aspect. What if this building doesn't get built? What if this doesn't happen? We didn't think, nobody thought through those contingencies, and here we have this huge problem. And then when all of those loans kick in, and let's not forget that the city, when we see these awards for like, oh, the city gave somebody $250,000, that's not free money, that's not a grant. A lot of times those are reimbursable, forgivable loans. So you're like, what's a reimbursable, forgivable loan? That means you got to have this much money. So if you give me $250,000, I got to spend $250,000 first. Then I got to show you receipts to get that money back. Then over 5 years or 10 years, that money is reduced for every year that I'm in that building. And then if I get out of that contract, that means all of that money becomes due, what's left over. And that's not if they don't put some contingency in place of eminent domain that they tried to drop in the middle of somebody's contract. That, you know what I mean? So again, there's so much in it, and people know, but we're so excited to get that space. We're so excited to get that $250,000. And it is tragic to watch all of these businesses fall, and, you know, and that grocery store fall when it was much needed. And this isn't some plot. This isn't me making it up. Who's ever saying that? I'm sitting firsthand at contracts that my own lawyer said were unconscionable and that I could not sign when money was put in front of me. You know what I mean? And I had to raise $1 million twice. And that wasn't because of people that didn't look like me. That was people that looked like me. So I'm speaking from personal experience of some of the things that happen to some of the small businesses here in Avenue.
I have a question. Like a pro mortar, Cincinnati was a very good tool, and people were using that and implementing that to learn how to run a business. I've been running a business for myself for 30 years, and the knowledge that you gain is invaluable, from taxes to tax breaks to there's just and people get so excited when they get a chance to open up a business. They don't understand all the things that come with it. And like Rosemary said, someone will say, hey, we're going to give you $100,000 to do a build out, and then by the time you know it, you're up over your head, you're shut down, and then you owe all this money. And not even to say, when you're talking about these properties like Nathan was talking about, let's say, I'm not going to say any names, say
Still here? What happened?
I think he had some kind of technical thing.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah,
I think what Rilo was saying. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think Rosemary and Terrace seemed like he was on the road to making some good points as well. I think that you know, there's a lot on the business.
Well, you know, being on the road versus actually.
Oh my God, Phil, Phil.
Okay,
Phil.
Everybody's on the road to making intelligent comments, but
oh my God,
come on.
You walked right. Can the man finish? Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh my God.
I am, you know.
Thank you for being helpful, Phil.
Let me just say to the audience really quick. I know that many of you have been concerned about the last show and today, seeing kind of a lack of keen insight, sharp banter, you know, political understanding. And I understand that, but, you know, hopefully things will get better. But continue, Kevin, please. I'm sorry.
Gee, thanks, Phil. Thanks for your permission to go ahead and finish my comments that I started.
Right.
You know, that's just what I need. Another white man telling me it's okay to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh.
I appreciate that.
Oh my God.
At any rate, business is tough. Business is tough all the way around. I mean, I think we know that most businesses, you know, are lucky to make it to 5 years, if that, before they fold, and it may be even a little bit more challenging for Black businesses for a variety of different reasons that we don't have time to get into today. But you know, I would agree that had the development that had been planned for that area might it have made a difference for those businesses. Yeah, but you got to make it. You got to survive and be around long enough to realize that growth and development that comes up around you. And I get trying to get in on the ground floor, because once that development hits, it becomes nearly impossible to get in there when more moneyed interests who have, you know, more money, more cachet, more influence are able to get in there. So that's always the catch-22. I think that you face, you know, as a Black business owner, you know, not just in Cincinnati, but anywhere. But I think there are a lot of good organizations. Terrace brought up Mortar. I know that they've launched a lot of successful Black business owners who've gone through that program have come out better because of it. And I think there are probably other things around the city that are available that folks can take advantage of. But I think we got to put people who want to go into business into better situations than succeed than the money interest just trying to, further fill their pocket, and they don't care about you once you sign the lease or the contract, whether or not you can actually afford or you have the most solid, business plan to be able to be successful in that environment. I mean, it's tough to make a go of it in neighborhoods that, as a business owner, that are not necessarily the most affluent communities in the city, right? I mean, let's just be real about it. You got to be around folks who got money to be able to afford what products and services that you're offering. And in this economic environment and the situation that's becoming increasingly challenging for all businesses. And so, I agree with a lot of what Rosemary and Terrace were saying.
So I agree, but there's a couple points because math is math. And you have commercial rents going on. That was why. You have operational costs that you have to look at. You have to be able to supply and demand, and then you need traffic, right? And all of those things about how you're going to bring people in, all of those are supposed to go into the planning process of any business. And then if you're going to open a business, you should have 5 to 10-year plan. When people found themselves struggling, they didn't have access to additional money. What happens in communities that don't look like us is when people are struggling that hard and they're supposed to be driving more traffic that might not be coming this year, they might have deferred it, then you needed to give them money to stay afloat until you can get there. That's called access, and they took that away too. So when you start thinking about what happened with people, the people who approved and gave it to them were supposed to be smart enough to know if they should have done it, because the math does not lie. And when you go and try to validate what people bring, that helps the math. You actually do an analysis to tell you how many people drive up the street. Then you can't open a grocery store, and your first day you don't have in that community. And you didn't even have, what is it called? Food stamps, right? No, you didn't even have food stamps, right? When in that population, what is used most, right? So it took them some months for that. And then if you think about food has a lot of waste. So that goes into your factor. I'm not going through the whole thing, but what I'm saying is, I don't think they loaned any money to under 21-year-old people, and that we owe ourselves to educate ourselves. But my last point would be the little chicken spot across the street. What is that, Hooks? We spend our money there. So when we say because I think what we were getting back to is what Nate said, was if you actually gentrify the neighborhood or change it, is it going to change? I think somebody said everyone over there might not have money to have spent. The truth is, they got money to spend. They be spending it at that across the street.
Because that chicken is good though, Landis. You got to say though that the chicken is good. I mean, I'm just saying. The reality at the end of the day is you gotta have products. You gotta have the product that people.
Excuse me. What's the issue we're talking about here? What is it?
We're talking about Avondale Town Center, Phil.
Oh, because I thought it was talking about who has the best chicken.
Avondale Town Center. They've had a number.
Just wanted to clarify that.
I think the thing that we're not talking about is a couple of things. So yes, to your point, Landis, and Phil, you think about this too. So we think about the capital budget for the city of Cincinnati, and it is not unusual for the city of Cincinnati to subsidize businesses. And I think for any number of reasons, the city chose not to do that, to Landis' point, until it was stable, and that is an issue of access to capital. The capital is there. The city chose not to use it that way. I think the thing that no one's really talking about is Kroger. So what happens too? Yeah, because while I'm not a fan of capitalism necessarily, but I do believe. I'm glad you're back there. Somebody said ICE has snatched you up, so I'm glad to see you back. I didn't say it. Somebody in the chat said it. No, I didn't say it. Somebody in the chat said it. But
if they
got
do,
him
I'll be
again.
the first person to.
yeah, but
I don't know, but I'll be the first person.
right, you're gone.
Thanks,
You're gone,
Phil.
Phil. But so while I don't think that it's
By the way,
Kroger's
I'm glad to
responsibility.
see, by the way, Alandis and Terrace, that you two have patched things up. That's always good. But I'm sorry.
You're
Continue.
fine. Kroger is a for-profit company, and it's not their job to lift up competition. But I also think that there's communities and stakeholders in Cincinnati who are beholden to Kroger's. And that was Kroger, because I know Black people love to put an S on the back of things, Kroger. And I think that there was a few of us were beholden to Kroger in a way that we shouldn't be. I also think the city of Cincinnati, and I don't know the facts, Rosemary went into about the rent and the contracts. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that. But I do know of those type of contracts and leases that are just not good for businesses. They know that they're not good for business, and they force these businesses who are happy and want to go into business into signing them. And you think it's a great idea, but I lay what happened with the grocery store at the feet of the city of Cincinnati, period. One, because I think when you don't fund enough, it's worse than not funding at all. And I think people don't understand that because, and yes, they did have trouble with the EBT system, but a lot, and when you talk about the grocery store business, we're talking about inflation. You're talking about tariffs. You're talking about food with the distribution, the life shelf life, all the things. And so the city of Cincinnati, knowing that, should have done a better job. Everybody likes to be at the photo ops and the ribbon cuttings, but that's not the work. The work is making sure on the back end, because what happens in the city of Cincinnati, we have two budgets. We have the capital budget and we have the general fund. So there's like two different kind of budgets. The operating, what we call operating budget and the capital budget. And I don't think, and this grocery store would have qualified for capital dollars. There's almost always, it's been a while, but it's almost always money in the capital budget, but you have to have somebody who's leading the charge. And there are various ways to get monies to businesses. It's not, you can hand it to them directly. If there are some issues, you can have another entity distribute the money. So for someone to say, well, there were some issues and we couldn't give them to directly, I'm not buying that either, because there's multiple ways, and I've seen it and signed off on it, to give businesses opportunities at capital. So this is a challenge. You haven't seen it, Phil? You haven't seen?
No, as I said, somebody just said ICE doesn't go to Indian Hill. I have a feeling that was
that was
aimed at me, even though despite Kevin's best efforts, I do not live in Indian Hill. But continue. I'm sorry.
I know. I told you live right on Redden Road in Avondale, so I know this impacts you directly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm all ears. Believe me.
So you are. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I think there's a lot of factors in here. We're talking about Kroger. We're talking about the city of Cincinnati underfunding or not funding enough. And then I'm not absolving the community from not going, but I just think with all the factors we just talked about as it relates to a grocery store, you can have a lot of customers, but there's, in the first year, and the EBT stuff, that was a Doge thing. There was a lot of things that happened when we were cutting Doge. A lot of things, there were a lot of factors that people aren't thinking about, and the least of which is economies of scale. When you have a place like Kroger who has multiple stores across multiple states and could buy in bulk and pass those savings on to us as consumers, but Country Meat didn't have that opportunity to buy in bulk, so prices were a little bit higher. And I'm not excusing that, but I mean that's what happens when you're a business of one or two, as opposed to hundreds or tons of stores. So I think there's a lot of things that are happening at the same time with the store. But if I were to blame anyone, it would be the city of Cincinnati.
And remember, it's not just the grocery store that closed. That happened now. We're talking about everything in that little nook that's happened. Yeah, it's pretty much all gone, and that's bigger than that. And like, if you think about Zola, she required foot traffic. She required she required more customers to come in there. She really did. And I know every time we threw something, we made sure we did it there. Like sometimes every time I'm over by the grocery store, I went and bought something and I wouldn't even find anything I wanted sometimes. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So we have to be intentional too. But I'm not blaming it all on us, right? Because there's a lot to go around. But You still do have to do your
Yeah,
homework
I mean,
in
but
your business.
at the end of the
You do.
day, though, business is business, right? Like you have to have the product and you can't rely on people feeling sorry for you or feeling like because you Black that they ought to patronize your business. It would be nice if that was the way, but most people don't patronize businesses like that. And this is what I was saying, like in an economy where people are already stressed, price of eggs is high, meat's high, gas is high. It really takes a person who has the ability to say, I'm gonna go to the Black grocery and pay more for groceries than I could get at Kroger or someplace else. Like you can't be mad at people for making an economic decision that's best for them and their household. And so I think sometimes the real realities of how business operates, like you don't get special dispensation from your customers because you're a Black owned business. People still gonna spend their money where the products make sense, where the value makes sense. And so I think as we're looking at what businesses we're going to go into, and this is what I'm saying, like white restaurants, it's hard across the board. It ain't just Black businesses. I mean, you could we do stories on this all the time. These white restaurants and these white businesses, they dropping like flies too around the city, right? So it's not a matter of Black and white, it's a matter of business. And do you have an idea that works? As Alanda said, have you done the studies to know where your customers are going to come from? Is there foot traffic? Are the people who you are selling to, can they drive to get to where you are? So there are a lot of factors that go into making a business successful and making it be able to run. So part of it might be an examination of, is this type of it might be a good idea that I think, or a passion that I have, but is it a business that actually has traction and is going to work and has staying power? And not every business does.
I want to say one more thing, because again, I saw somebody saying like, "Oh, Rosemary, you a nonprofit person." Nonprofit is harder than any for-profit business because a nonprofit still has to activate as a business. We have to have a strategic plan and a budget. I had to do a feasibility study, and I'm sure Alandis can speak on that, and Tamaya, they both work in nonprofit. So we actually have to do more to get ours off the ground. And if you get into development, that's a whole nother ball game in itself. I had to learn about development, especially after my construction snafus. But what I also wanted to say was one of the harshest things that we don't want to address in Avondale, and I spent years at the table because my degrees and all of my passion is in small business development, was Avondale needs that rebranding, like what they did for OTR districts, where they rebranded OTR, put all of the businesses under one cusp. They promoted all of those businesses. I went to the table with Avondale Development Company, your urban leagues, yep, I said it, and all of the other people, and said, why is it that when we talk about Avondale, we want to talk about the crime first? And like Kevin said, you want people to pity Avondale because it's poor people here, and there's a whole nother side of Avondale that is successful, that they've built new homes and the hospitals are there and all of that. So Avondale needed a rebranding. There's people, because they think, I mean, of course, Avondale has high crime. I think it's like the third highest for shootings or something like that. And they still are listed as high crime, but they rebranded all of downtown to make it look like
they genderfied it first. They kicked everyone out first. So wait, don't.
No. But what I'm saying is, let me finish.
What you're saying.
But they have the plan in to bring some of that to Avondale. They were doing it underneath the Avondale Community Council, underneath Avondale Development Corporation, but they never discussed rebranding South Avondale. And those conversations needed to start when those businesses went in and start that rebranding process. They never did it.
You
even
cannot
as a nonprofit, I have people scared to get off the bus, and I'm in North Avondale, right across the street.
And I'm fussing about a bus stop in Bond Hill. That's not what does it. You just compared it to Over the Rhine.
But Over the Rhine was bad. There was thefts, there was killings, and it took them years to rebrand. But if they have this whole plan,
they did not rebrand. They kicked them out of there.
And they are kicking them out of Avondale too.
And you're saying that's what they need to do.
What
so
I'm not
here's
saying
my
that's
question.
what they need to do. That is what they're doing. I've seen the plans.
So you're saying they're rebranding. Are you saying they rebranding or they need to rebrand?
I'm saying
you're the
a
one who put
rebranding
over the
would
Rhine
have
in.
helped. I am saying a rebranding would have helped. So again, you're attacking the person that was sitting at the table wanting to help save these businesses.
Okay.
2 years ago, 4 years ago, I'm at the table.
Okay, so can I finish?
Trying to come up with resolutions.
I know, but can I finish?
Outside of the problem.
Okay, so let me say this really quick. So first of all, no one on this call has ever heard me attack you. Attacking looks a lot different than anything I'm doing on this phone.
Attacking the solution.
I'm not attacking that solution. You're just piggybacking off of the other guy in the corner because he said that it wasn't true. I'm not attacking. I'm not saying solutions aren't good. What I'm saying is that what you say and how you tie it together is what I listen to. So when you said we need to be more like over the Rhine, and then you said we need to be rebranding. Okay, so I'm not. So you're not going to let me.
We needed to be more like
so you're not going to let me finish. So I'm
no, but I'm correcting. What did they say? Don't put out wrong information.
Listen. I am going by what you said, and please don't.
No, you're misinterpreting and misstating what I said. I said what I said.
Okay. So let me be very clear. What you said didn't line up with facts. Okay, because what I told you is a lie can't tell the truth. And what you said was you actually compared over the Rhine to Avondale. And what you said, we needed to be more like over the Rhine, and they needed to do what they did in over the Rhine, and you called it rebranding. And I stopped you and said it was gentrification first. Now I'm very clear because that's what happened. And I don't need to argue or try to figure it out. But that's what you said, so that's what I was reacting to. Because if you hadn't said it, I'd have still been chilling. But you said it, and I want to be very clear. When you say rebranding and you compare it to over the Rhine, that was gentrification, honey. They kicked all those people out. And all of those people went up to Westwood and on up the corner. And I know because I own houses over there. And that's what they did. They shifted them. And so now you're saying they need to shift Avondale. That's what you're saying with that. It's rebranding.
That's not what I said.
Well, then you shouldn't have compared it to over the Rhine.
I said they needed a rebrand of what Avondale was. Anytime you hear about Avondale, they always lead with those in poverty. They always lead with the crime. Why can't we lead with the success of what's happening in Avondale? That's what I meant by rebranding. I never said move anybody. I also said that they had this huge development plan, but when they redid all of those things in Avondale, they should have started pushing out that it is safer. They should have started changing the narrative, and they needed to start that when those businesses moved in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. I never said gentrify everything. I never said that. The rebranding starts years before it actually makes its statement. Avondale is not having those conversations because I sat at the tables for years.
I think that's a good idea, though. I mean, aside from the issue you have with it, Alandis, what's wrong with rebranding South Avondale? I mean, I think that's a good idea.
Because she was said, do it. You know what? You're not gonna gaslight.
I'm not trying to gaslight you.
It's not gonna happen. She kept comparing it to we should be more like over the Rhine, and to get to where over the Rhine is today.
I don't think she said that.
To people's home.
I think what she again, she can speak for
I
herself.
think her idea.
She said it
her
4
idea
times
was in the messaging. I think what if I'm understanding what she's saying it's about the messaging and how you present it versus the actual gentrification that you're talking about. Alandis is a slightly different pitch. Because this is how gentrification happens.
You gotta change
gentrification happens because of the negative imagery of a neighborhood that drives down property values, that allows people with moneyed interest to be able to come in, buy it all up, and transform it. I think what Rosemary is trying to say is you got to get ahead of that by changing the narratives about neighborhoods so that property values and perceptions aren't allowed to be driven down by the negative framing of it. So I think that's what she meant.
So it's the negative framing the truth or a lie?
So, well, I think some of it.
No. It's a very straight question.
No, well,
Is the
I
negative
think it's a
thing-
bit of both,
It's
and I think
subjective.
that's her.
It's
I think that's her
subjective. It's
point.
subjective.
So
I
let
think
so,
that's her
subjective
point.
so the
listener.
thing is that so hold on. Is the thing is that it's a mix,
Yeah.
right? There's problems in Avondale. It is either number 2 or number 3. There's problems in Avondale. So now you say rebranding. Rebranding to me sometimes is what you do in corporate America to make you come to me, even if it's not the right thing for you to do.
Well,
Because actually you're just trying to, and so you still have to make sure, because sometimes rebranding means I have to change the people.
well, I didn't
Most
take it that way.
rebranding means I change the process, I change the product sometimes.
I can't speak for
So
Rosemary,
that's
but I don't think she meant it that way. I think she meant
I don't
think she meant
okay,
like
I
we
don't care.
need.
I don't know what she meant.
Again,
I only took her at
how
her
I took it
word.
is, I think, and I agree with this, and I think there's a lot of neighborhoods. I think the city and business interest have an interest in promoting the positivity of Avondale. I think
Okay.
everybody would benefit if you have a thriving Avondale, and that starts with narrative and storytelling and making people believe that this is a place where you want to be and where you want to invest, instead of it always being about who got shot and graduation rates and all that kind of stuff. Why don't we start accentuating the positive? I think it's a great idea. What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying
Right.
that.
But that's how I took it. I understand your
I'm
point.
not saying you know, it sounds like we're just putting some makeup on.
Sometimes you
but
got to.
it doesn't matter how you say it. The truth is still the truth, you guys.
Yeah.
And to change our community, we have to be truthful with each other. And what we just talked about is that we had a lot of Black businesses sitting on Reading Road that we all celebrated. And a lot of us gave money to help make them happen. But we didn't show up the next time. And it was around the corner, and we didn't show up the next time and the next time. So you can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. You actually got to show yourself worthy to be a part of that, to move the train.
But here's
So it's not just branding. It is a mindset that you have to think differently. Look at what Avondale Development Center is going through right now. So there's a lot of things that happen that is not fair. And it's not just Black people or white people. It goes back to money that we talk about. So that entire block almost was of Black businesses, and they're gone. And people don't understand that when we fail, they make it look like we failed.
yeah.
When one person fails that don't look like us, Joe, only person failed was Phil. But when you fail, they're gonna talk about more Black men. Do you understand? That is the
How
brand
did I
that
get
we
drawn
have.
into this?
But wait a minute though.
No, it's an example.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
though,
I'm
Landis.
always the fall
I
guy.
don't
I'm
like
always
it,
the
but
fall
it's
guy
an
in this
example.
group. You know, yeah, everybody takes that out on
It's
me.
an example.
Landis, I don't disagree
like I told
with
my
a
therapist-
lot of. I don't disagree with a lot of what you're saying and where your perspective is on that. But here's the reality that we got to get out from under: is that Black people alone are not going to keep you afloat as a business.
Exactly.
You have to be able to attract customers of all races, stripes, or whatever. Because if you're just relying on Black customers only to keep you afloat, that is a losing proposition. I hate to say that, even though as much as we say
So
that we
did
should.
you ignore the other 7 reasons I gave?
No.
Because
I'm
we
just
keep talking about that one thing.
Let me
That
finish.
wasn't the
I'm just
only
getting
thing.
into my.
But you've talked about this now 3
I'm
times.
just getting
So
into my
keep it up.
commentary. I've been listening. I've been sitting back listening to what y'all saying.
Not
so I'm
very
trying to,
well, because it wasn't just Black. It wasn't just us not shopping there.
I get it.
It was I walk you through operational costs.
I get it. I just said I agree. I just said I agree with you on a lot of. Don't Alandis, don't get tied up on the areas where I might disagree with you when I said I agree with most of what you said. Don't be so sensitive about about.
But I'm not
disagreement.
sensitive either.
Huh?
I'm not sensitive.
Well, I mean, you come hard anytime somebody hit you with a little.
I go hard.
Look, I'm the one. I'm the one.
I
agree
agree with most of what you said.
This is my paint.
I'm the one
I'm
LeBron.
allowed to not co-sign on 100% of whatever what anybody says, and y'all are likewise with me. I mean, that's part of the conversation. So again, what you were saying about it being a mixed bag is absolutely true. The question is which narrative is going to be the loudest? Is it going to be the negative, or is it going to be the positive? I agree with what you say, that as Black communities, we got to confront and be honest about and address the very real issues about our neighborhoods head on. First of all, how are outside interests coming in and getting property in our neighborhoods in the first place? Many black homes, many black owned homes in that city, many of the properties in certain neighborhoods were owned by black people at one time. Homes that your mama or your grandmama owned that they handed down to you, and I'm using you generally, not speaking to anybody, but who either lose that property or turn around and sell it. You mentioned the violence. There has to be more and real conversations about how do we crack down on people who don't mean our neighborhoods any good and not defending certain negative behaviors that drive down property values in our neighborhood, that make them seem unsafe and unattractive to businesses or to other people that come and patronize. So I agree with you that there's an honest conversation that needs to be had in certain areas of black neighborhoods, and there has to be an overall plan, right, for how we are going to address all of those different areas and how we're going to begin to repaint the narrative about our neighborhoods and what they are and what they look like, right? So it's a mixed bag, but it's about which voice is going to be louder. Is the loudest voice going to be the negative, or is the loudest voice going? Because don't get it twisted. White folks do it in white neighborhoods too. They got their problems too, but they do not allow that to be the prevailing narrative that's told about.
Yeah, but here you go.
Even in Indian,
you know what else happens? Is there's a lot of white people who are wealthy off of our
There he
trauma.
goes, as Ronald
Because
Reagan would
what
say,
we do-
there you go again.
It's what we do is as we go through this narrative and we talk about what we need to change and this and that, there's a lot of white people who are wealthy off of our trauma. They keep going to give them money to save us. Do you understand that? Like the whole.
Yes.
Well,
So,
right now,
yes.
You
well,
have
right
to look
now-
at the entire thing.
Well, I'll say this. Right now, there's $40 million sitting in a Fifth Third Bank next to some open spaces that is supposed to be available for businesses. And so the problem with us, and again, I sat at those tables, the people that were responsible, and you know what, Avondale Development Corporation oversaw the money that was supposed to be given to the community to be able to uplift the neighborhood and bring businesses there, the $20 million. So to be able to bring small businesses and support them. What the problem is, you can look on Avondale Development Corporation's website and you saw a whole plan on the problems in the community, but you had to dig real deep to figure out how to get the dollars. Then there was an announcement from Fifth Third Bank that they brought another $20 million into Avondale for funds to be able to support businesses. However, nobody's talking about how you get those funds. So again, the problem is there's dollars there to be able to support, but they don't, the organizations that are supposed to, yep, there you go. The organizations that are supposed to support people, the underserved, new businesses, minority, it doesn't matter who you are or what you want to do. The organization, Avondale Development Corporation, that's supposed to connect people to the proper people in order to get those resources, weren't doing that work.
It wasn't just.
Again, I sat in the room and sat at the table. So when it talks about Avondale, even Fifth Third Bank putting their location within Avondale, there had to be a discussion, and there still is, about how do you bring more people in? How do you get more businesses there if they're scared that they're going to get robbed, if they're scared that they can't drive down the street, if they're scared of all these things? So it has to start with, guess what? We got a Fifth Third here. Guess what? Rosemary's Babies is on this corner or whatever. So again, you have to start somewhere, because it's getting more and more difficult for those businesses, for people to even want to come there. Like right now, there's, and so that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, and there's going to be regentrification in Avondale because of the hospitals and that intersection of Martin Luther King. There is, I want to say, $1 billion worth of development that is about to come there. Hotels, condos, the whole shebang at that intersection. The plan is on the city's website. And if you look deep and do a deep dive, it's already there. It's already coming.
So
And
let me tell you where you're wrong, because I'm going to hang up after this, because you are wrong on one point, because I helped bring that through Fifth Third. And what their problem is it's called regulations. So in order to give you money, they couldn't unwind the regulations to say, give you money even though your credit score didn't say this. Give you money even though it looked like you weren't going to be able to pay it back. So what we have to do is become educated as to what are all the rules to get access. Because what they tried to do was figure out how to change some of that access and they did with their heart and soul. Even looked at going to buy a different bank. But regulatory demands you do certain things, and a lot of people cannot get across that borderline. And that is the reason, let me finish. That is the reason why the Urban League started the 700 Club. And even though they started it, it cost a lot to keep that going, but it's been successful. So there's all things that have to come together. So it wasn't like anybody said they don't want you to have the money. But what's going to happen now is we were supposed to be getting prepared for all of that was going to happen. The hotel, the everything. The Black businesses was there, and we needed to help them continue to be there. But accessing that money requires regulatory scrutiny to give you a loan, and we have to be able to give it to you just like you would give it to Nate. So that had to happen, and that is what has caused a lot of problems with getting the money in the hands of who needs it.
But
that was the only thing I was saying.
That also was Avondale Development Corporations, the Urban League. That was everybody's
everyone's
responsibility to bring people that were qualified to the table and tell them where those dollars are. They didn't do a good job at doing it.
Okay, so I understand. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that they weren't holding the money back. They tried to figure out how to even get through some of those regulatory. And I don't have a reason to lie.
Avondale Development Corp?
No.
Because I'm talking about the table that I'm sitting at.
You're talking about Russ. I'm not going to talk about that piece.
No. And I didn't say anybody specifically. Okay. I'm talking about because I got money through Avondale Development Corporation. They got money back in, 2022. That's when that first 20 million came in. And they were going to use those funds or try to redo Gabriel's place. That was one of the first big, people that moved out of Avondale due to that transition. But again, we could go all day on it.
I was just correcting that one piece.
I still think that Avondale needs a rebranding, and we need to start telling a fresher story, because there's no reason that right across the street from Clinton Springs, they're thriving in North Avondale and just change this into an entire historic district. But over here, when they cross the other street, that they're failing, and they're telling a story like they're failing, but they're really not, because there really are some great things happening in Avondale, but we're just not talking enough about it. The money is still at the bank. Iris Rowley is still at the bank.
It is.
And Avondale Development Corporation still has a lot of those dollars, and you just have to apply for the funding if you're a business, including a nonprofit.
That's all
Well, I don't know now because the certain people gone, but that's where it was.
So yeah, Iris, the money is still at the bank. It wasn't for Avondale to get it. They still needed to go through something, so it wasn't just handed over to them. They went through something to access that. Like once they decided to give you money, that's when they would go get the money to get to you. So
what I don't want anybody listening to this to miss, and it can be easy, particularly where there might be small points of disagreement among people on the panel, is everything that has been said, whether it's been by Rosemary or Landis, there's truth in all of it, and nuggets that we need to take about the overall look in the landscape of how do we move forward to make sure that Black businesses are successful, which starts about how do I get money from the bank and grants from these programs. And it's about, okay, how do I make sure my credit is in order? How do I make sure that I got all of the things, the boxes checked, so when I go, that if I got all of that lined up and I still can't get it, then I can start talking about racism and discrimination. But anytime I can't check the boxes, I can't just say, oh, they don't want to give Black people the money when your credit is jacked up, when you got a 450 credit score or something. Like, no, you ain't getting no money. I don't care how good your business idea is. And so I think part of it is, what mechanisms do we have in place that are training, educating people, getting the information that's out there about to access, and who are the people who are in positions who are Black and successful, who can help train up, mentor, guide young Black business owners or people who are getting into it for the first time so that they don't fail, or who can tell them, hey, this is a good idea, but you ain't got your 5 to 10 year plan together and you're not ready to launch yet. Let's just not be so excited to get a business and get in there that ain't going to work out, because that does nobody any good. So I think, like, along with the messaging, so everybody has said things that are good and true. Let's not get on the points where we disagree or we don't see eye to eye that we miss. Everybody is saying something that's a big part of the solution piece. We just got to pull it all together and start to move in that, because I didn't hear a lot of untruth in a lot of things that anybody said, right? We just come at it from a different position.
Exactly.
But I think I thought it was a great conversation and all good stuff.
Can I go back to when Kevin, when you're done, I want to go back because I got disconnected. I want to talk about Mortar. When Mortar first started, and in my opinion, and I'm just going strictly off my opinion, it was a beautiful organization and helped Black owned. It helped just some people who I saw learn that, because 30 years of being in business, I saw, okay, yeah, there's an organization out there for Black people, Black individuals and others who want to learn about business. When I would go and visit, I would see the representative from Fifth Third Bank there saying, hey, and he would say things like what Kevin was just talking about. You got to have your credit score straight. You got to have your business plan together. So once we get past that and they start putting out good people in Mortar, what I seen with my eyes is Mortar Covington come into play. I think it was like 2019. And me being in Covington, I seen the people who were funding the Covington Mortar program. And I was like, oh yes, here in Covington, I'm gonna go pitch. So when I went to go pitch, the Mortar Covington branch specifically, I'm not talking about anything else, what I noticed was people who didn't look like me or share my same sexual preference. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but a lot of times that I have seen, whenever things are meant strictly for Black people specifically, when non-Black people with money start coming in and start implementing their influence, things start to go away from this. So I would like to see, if we could, and as collectively as a group, we get together, there's something specifically for Black people. And I know what somebody's going to say. Well, you voted directly against that. You voted to get DEI taken away. You voted for all this stuff to go away. I know somebody's going to say that. My solution is since we still can't talk truth to power. We talked about when I had a visitor come into a potential senator or congressman come into my barbershop, and y'all think that there's a whole
Ed Gallery.
Your
buddy Ed Gallery.
You know what I was talking to him about? Immigration.
Yeah, immigrants in sports. You told us.
Immigration and how that is affecting the Black community as a whole.
It's not. It's not affecting us.
So I went all the way around that to say there's two specific things that I would like to say. I would like to see programming specifically for Black entrepreneurs, not African American entrepreneurs. Not I'm talking Black people.
Niggas, I'll say it for you. Niggas.
For us, we need it most. In the 1920s, we had it all, and then they came through with the Tulsa, the Black Wall Street. Why can't we have that again? Are we not as intelligent as the people? I know our families aren't, but aren't we smarter with technology? We have not evolved as Black people that we cannot have our own. I fail to believe that as reality, because I live it every single day with hard work, education, finding the right people, getting the right circles, having the uncomfortable conversations, just like on this chat, to build more into Black businesses. And I'll get off my soapbox.
So all I'm gonna say is bless your heart. Just bless your heart.
So what you're saying is we need some kind of specific programming that addresses, like, what foundational Black Americans have been dealing with, the isms and stuff. That's what you're saying?
I'm saying that we need
You're not allowed to have
we need
that.
education for people specifically. You take these people who are in
You mean
drug,
like
who might be
DEI?
drug, like I'm talking about like no specific, even more specific. Like not
Exactly.
DEI, because DEI was hijacked by white women.
Everything's
Come
gonna be
on, man.
hijacked.
Come on, stop trying to do that.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
I'm saying, yes, specifically for black people who've come from, if that could be the reparations. If your family has come through chattel slavery and has been here since the 1800s and you can trace it back, there should be special programming for you instead of locking you up and putting you in jail. If you have the mentality to go out there and run a successful street business, you should have the wherewithal and the tools to start your own car wash, your own mobile service, your own. You should be able to have the pathway to get a college education. You should be able to have a pathway to get all these things if you're black. We keep giving our resources. We like the whole ICE thing that I got. We are more concerned about ICE than we are our own kids, our own people who look
That's
like
not
us.
true.
We're more. I believe that. I believe that because
He's
Yes,
speaking for himself.
you know what I hate. You know
I
what I
know,
hate
but
when we
Kevin,
do on
he's
this
talking about
program
him.
is you act
He's
like
talking about
people are
himself.
not. You act like people are not capable of being concerned about more things than one at one time. So because I talk about immigration, that does not mean that I'm not concerned about black folks or crime or any of that. I'm concerned about all of it, and I think most people are. But that's a convenient out when people don't want to have the conversation or they don't have the answers around a particular issue or topic, is to say, well, why ain't y'all worried about this? And it's always, we should be more worried about that. We should be worried about all of it, right? We should be worried about all of it because we all got to live in these communities. We all got to share space, and we're all trying to make it. And as I said, and others have said on this program just today, is that what affects one group, you best believe it's going to come your way eventually when the people in power, it may be the Haitians today, maybe the Mexicans today, it's been black people in the past. There was a lot of minority groups that looked around at how black people was being treated, and they didn't think their day was going to come. Well, wake up. They knocking on your door now. So,
Well,
And do you know how many people have asked us to change our name from black? You voted for that, Terrence. And now you're talking about we need black programs. Listen to yourself.
Yeah, so whenever I get
That's
that,
all I'm
I'm
asking
listening to
is
myself,
listen
and
to what
I'm
you're
saying that to
saying.
you, and I'm saying this to you. I'm saying it on this podcast,
Yeah.
and I'm consistent when I'm around people who are to people who could be congressmen or are congressmen or state senators, or I do not change my dialogue. I don't go around them and start bootlicking talking about I'm like, we need specific stuff for black people. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? If being in a room, so the president that I picked, when I get into those rooms with Republican people and I start talking about the same talking points, that this is exactly why I could never be a Democrat. Because when I come to talk to Democrat people about we need to have more black specific things, y'all start talking about we shall overcome and start talking about all the problems we have instead of trying to get to solutions. Every single time. There's no solution-based conversations.
You know what we don't do is we don't get in the room and sell ourselves.
I never.
So even when you think,
that goes over my head. That goes.
We don't. But listen to this. Even when you add it up, because at the end of the day, when a Republican is voting, what he ends up voting for is businesses. He votes for corporate America to save us, and they're not going to save us. You can tell that by how many jobs are made under Republicans. You can tell that to where the money goes, to where tax breaks goes. I'm not making it up. I'm just saying factual. And what we shall overcome, we're going to overcome you too, but we're going to be right there when it goes down. And we're going to be like, that's the black man. We got to help.
So the Republican Party in the 20s, they weren't there to help. The Republican Party,
they were, but I don't live in the 20s.
So we live now. So if they're in the power and they have the decisions to make the corporate money, why can't we teach black people how to do this as well? Instead of saying, no, we go do where?
So wait a minute. I just want to.
You're like everybody else. You're putting us all in a bag.
Yeah. So I agree.
And I'm not getting in your bag.
Like, I agree with Alandis. Like, I think that when we go in and we say Alandis, I think that when you go in and you say these overarching things like all Republicans and we need to, I think that there are people out here that are teaching black people these things. In fact, after I got my business open, I held a class myself and told people how to go get a line of credit, because I went through it and I was like, what do I do with all these information? Because I won't ever go in development again. The other thing I want to say too about nonprofit, or even business, as everybody that, what did they say, that like there's devil in the business. So the more you grow, the more problems, the more bills, the more these things. As you go up and you want to grow, there becomes these questions of what will you sacrifice. So for Mortar started with, what was it, 2 other Black founders. But as Mortar began to grow, you're then looking at a spectrum of, okay, I want to grow and I want to scale. Who can I put on my board? And ultimately, and I got to say it how it is, if white people hold the wealth,
Exactly.
eventually you got to go in front of them. But you're also making a choice. Do I want to scale small and keep moving small, or do I want to make this major jump if I add this multimillionaire to my board, or if I add this person? So again, it's really the decisions that have to be made. And again, that's separate, because Mortar is a nonprofit. So the founder doesn't own it. So he really doesn't. Once he starts putting on all these other individuals, he moves into a spectrum of, I'm just the CEO, or I'm just the program person. And that board can fire you. And a lot of people don't understand that. A nonprofit is something you don't own. I don't own Rosemary's Babies Company. My board can fire me, but I've also been put in situations where, I'll give a true example. When I wanted to build Holloway House, there was a lot of racial pressure for me to put a white person in the head of Rosemary's Babies Company, to put them in the head of the capital campaign, because I was having a lot of difficulty. There was a pressure point where we were offered a grant, but I had to let this organization have a vote and be a voting board. There a person put on my board so they can have voting rights. So guess what I didn't do? I don't want your grant. You know what I mean? So these are choices that you have to make. However, because again, if I want to grow and I want to scale, when I take these people's money, I might have to shift. And that's the devil in the dollars. Yeah. So, but at the same time, we do have people out here teaching Black people, but those Black people also have to take that information, utilize it, don't discredit it, because the person teaching you is Black, or they might not be a millionaire. I might not be a millionaire, but I have a wealth of knowledge from years of being in business, being in the rooms where people gave me, showed me how to do this, which may have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I'm going to give it to you for free. And sometimes we discredit our own people that have that knowledge and that information, because, and I'll agree with everybody else on this panel, it's a broken mindset with us that people that don't look like us is better, or they more knowledgeable, and all of these things. So again, I'm just like,
I don't think they more knowledgeable.
I don't either.
No, they
I
not.
don't either.
I don't think they more knowledgeable than my kids.
A lot of people feel like
a lot of people run to them and they join them. So that's the switch and bait, is when you switch over,
because they'll trust them before they trust their own.
Here's a healthy mentality that I think Black people need to have, and I get the idea of all of what you're saying about programming and all this, but I believe it starts with the individual, right? Open a book, read something, show yourself approved. You have control over that. That starts everything. Instead of buying your kids video games and things of that nature for their birthday, buy them a book on how to start business, buy them a book on history, make them read it, help them be educated, because there's so much that's within our control. Look, Alandis can say this, Rosemary can say it, Terrace, you can say it, Nathan, you can say it. All of us are people who have started our own business ventures, whether that's for-profit, non-profit, or whatever. So there's a certain expertise that we can all speak from because we've lived it. We know what it's like to go through. I listen to not only Black people who are successful, I listen to white people who are successful. I listen to anybody who is getting that bag and can impart some knowledge onto me to help me do what I do. I don't discriminate. And I agree with you. I don't think anybody is smarter than anything. I look at the results that you produce. And if you are producing successful results, then that's what I'm trying to learn from and emulate. So I think, on some level, we got to take accountability for ourselves, starting with the individual and start with a book. The book I started with was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, written by some dude named Robert Kiyosaki, right? Somebody told me to read it, so I read it. It was great. And then from that,
It's right here.
other books, onto other books, onto other books. So you can educate yourself. You don't have to rely on, it's great if CPS does a great job, but you don't have to rely on CPS to educate you. We all have the wherewithal within ourselves to be as educated as we want to be. We just have to put a premium on it, right? What are we focusing on within the Black community in terms of what our priorities are, right? I heard somebody talking about this today. Black folks, we put too much emphasis, particularly with our young men, on sports. Sports is everything. That's what we talk to our young men about. You know, Black men is rushing to coach and do all of these different things around sports. And I know I say that as somebody who owns a sports team, but I do other things too. And so we need to put our emphasis on Asians. They emphasize education. That's why they smart. They're not necessarily smarter than any particular group because genetically they're that way. That's what they put an emphasis on in their culture. Some cultures say, this is what we're going to emphasize. You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Some ethnic groups say that. And there's a lot of them that's doing that. Why? Because that is where their point of emphasis is. What is our point of emphasis within the Black community? What are we emphasizing to our kids and within ourselves and within our culture? There's got to be a certain amount of soul searching that goes, that starts there. And that's not to dismiss a lot of the outside factors that we're fighting against, but we can overcome a lot if we start with the individual.
I got to say this about, I'm going to finish this about Mortar and I'm going to jump off here. I love Mortar. I love what they've done for our community. I've loved what they are doing and what continue to do and are going to do. And may God continue to bless them and shine light down upon them. By me bringing up what I brought up was just another cautionary measure of what we have to go through when we start building. And it's like Rosemary says, when we start scaling larger. A lot of people might not see and might understand the influence that comes with the board of directors that come with millions of dollars in an open pocketbook. We might not see that. That's the only reason why I brought that up. And I thank Rosemary for clarifying or expounding on that project, because I was not meaning or say anything about Mortar, except I love what they did. If someone was to follow Mortar's footsteps, please be cautious of dollars that come in, and when those dollars that come in would require influence, because if not, like Rosemary said, you could lose your board of directors speak. That's I have a Project 1099. It's a youth mentorship program that I have as a charitable arm of my S corporation. For the simple fact is, because I don't want to get voted off of off of a nonprofit organization because I tell a kid to sit the hell down. Because if I told the kid if I had to go with the board of directors, they would tell me that I can't talk to kids that way. So this is a charitable, a nonprofit arm of my for-profit organization. I can tell a kid, you can't come to my program. You can. There comes a sense of accountability when you have the ownership and you do not accept the money. Is all I was trying to get across. I love Mortar and everything they did, and I don't want this to be misconstrued as anything except for that. Being said, we need more programs for Black specific Americans.
DEI? You mean like DEI programs and reparations and stuff like that?
Hey, before we go, Kevin, I just have to say this. So first of all, you can do more than one thing. We can do more than one thing at a time. Right. So our kids can play sports because, believe it or not, even if you don't make that 1%, kids go to college, kids figure out how to have teamwork and think through things, and we can still make sure they have good grades. So I don't ever think we should actually limit ourselves and say we have to, but we do have to focus on education. And you do, but we shouldn't compare basketball to education.
Not comparing
it's
it,
okay.
just saying what we
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, Kevin.
But we also emphasize that we want our babies to have on Nikes. And I always say, go buy Nike stock instead of putting them on.
I agree with you 100%, Landon.
So we have thinking to do too as parents. So it's a generational thing. It's not just about the kid, right? It's just a whole lot of stuff. And then when we talk about money and spending it in our own community, we don't. So even though I know that's not the end all, that be all, when you look at the data, we spend our money outside of ourselves. And that comes back to our mind thinking and what we think looks cool. and what we think makes us feel and look. It goes back to why I don't really do branding thinking without getting really deep, because I didn't watch people go through branding and it's superficial. So I probably was a little extra with that when I said that, just because sometimes we're just trying to make things look good. It has to
Can
be
I
good in
can
the
I say
heart.
something? Can I say something, Rosemary, real quick? Because you was talking, I just started remembering, like, I mean, through social media, I remember watching you build Holloway House and everything you were doing, and you just built. I can only imagine that you just built up a wealth of information about that whole process and all that kind of stuff. And I might be wrong about this, but were you like kind of offering your services to people as a consultant that wanted to do nonprofits at some
Yes.
point? I remember seeing something. And you're shaking your head. Okay, so I'm not off base on that.
Yeah, like after I finished, I actually brought in one of the ladies on my board to actually help me build Holloway House. She was the president of Even Flow. So like I brought her in to talk about the numbers and the business plan, because I got so some of the things that we were successful on, we got a $900,000 bridge loan, and we were a 3-year-old nonprofit. So when you talk about credit, when you talk about feasibility studies, when you talk about references and things such as that, like I had to understand all of that. A feasibility study at minimum can cost you $10,000. We actually created our own. My background is business, so I'm not a nonprofit person. My degrees were in business, and I understood paperwork, but I also understood legal jargon. So like I wanted to be able to give people, and when I hosted my class and when I do help people, I actually give them copies of that paperwork, which was very different than when you go into some of these training programs. They're not actually giving you the paperwork to be able to go out here, copy it verbatim, but kind of tweak it towards your business and be successful. I thought that was very important, but I also made it affordable. And it was like $250. I had people like, oh, she charging too much. But if you won't make an investment in your business, because I spent $100,000 and $250,000 on this, but I'm saying $250. I'm spending most of the money on food and putting the business stuff together to be able to print it. But I wanted to be able to make it affordable enough, and $250 is affordable. You know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, I did want to go out here, help people. I still do. People that want to start a nonprofit, because a nonprofit is a business. And that's what people don't understand. It is a business, and it is a business that you do not own. So again, I'll put it out there. When I went publicly and got into all of these things and even ran for office that impacted my business, the board did intercede on how do they deal with this stuff, deal with me, Rosemary, who is known to be bipartisan and independent. That's what most people thought. How do we deal with her coming out as a Republican? How do we separate her from from the organization she founded? So again, I do education in all of those areas, but I also help people learn how to establish the foundation of a nonprofit, including writing their bylaws, so that if you are a founder that wants to stay involved, how do you write your bylaws so they can't just easily vote you out of your nonprofit?
Yeah.
I wrote my own bylaws. I did everything personally over the last 10 years. And yes, I went through a struggle with contractors, so I can tell people about how to sue, what you got to go through. We're still going through things legally with the contractors and things such as that. So people don't understand. I might not look like my struggle, but I have went through a lot in order to help teen parents, in the community. Like the first 5 years of my business, I didn't even get paid. I was too busy ensuring that I paid other people so that I didn't have to be in the office every day. And I think that's the mindset of some small business owner. I want all the money. No. I'm going to pay myself. The board going to pay me a stipend. Well, there's a budget. I have a salary, but I'm going to push that salary off so I can pay people to do this work so that I can get to working on the business instead of inside the business. So I teach that as well. So like Kevin was saying, I had to learn a lot of stuff on my own and do a lot of that paperwork, because when you're doing development, if you don't have lawyers, and then if you don't have lawyers that are reviewing your contracts from a predatory standpoint, because that's the major problem with some of these businesses. There can be predatory terms, but they're like, oh, this is the standard agreement. But the standard agreement, like our standard agreement, we were going to get some funds. There was an eminent domain clause in the middle of some funds that I was going to receive. And what it meant was if they decide they want to take my building, even if I had did the $1 million worth of work, they could take it and they could offer me what they actually paid for it, or what I actually paid for it. So if I bought my building for $194,000 to everybody to think my building was given. No, it wasn't. Holloway House, we had to pay for the building through the port. So if the city wanted to come and take it, even though it was 190, I put $1 million into it, they were able to buy it back from me, and I couldn't even argue it. I would have to sell it back for the amount that they paid for. So again, I had 3 different lawyers reviewing contracts along with me reading those contracts myself. So when when you're signing off on these infrastructure dollars, because we got money through the state, you got to read all of that, because a lot of times they've got these 30-year terms and 5-year terms, and you're so busy to get the $250,000 from the state through the capital project campaign, but you don't understand that comes with a 30-year tie to the state of Ohio.
Yeah. Rosemary, thank you for that. I'm nodding along with so much of what she was saying, because again, when you go through this process, and even though she's a nonprofit, very different from what we're doing, I 2 things that she said that really stuck out for me. One, if you got a business and you don't have a lawyer working with you, examining documents, that is a mistake.
Lawyer and accountant.
Yeah, because the contract is not, somebody once told me the contract is not made for the marriage, it's made for the divorce, right? And if you don't understand what the terms of the divorce are, that's how people find themselves in bad situations in business. The other thing that she said was about her board of directors. Like, this is how you often hear about people who start companies and then get fired from the companies that they started, because once you establish and have a board of directors, whether that is in the public for-profit space or in the nonprofit space, you might be running it, but you're not in charge. Like, that board of directors is in charge. And that's why while we've been doing the Kings, we've been very careful about how we parse out control of that organization, because we never not want to be the main decision makers behind it. Yes, you could bring in some people who might give you a lot of money, but that money ain't coming without some control and say in what you do and how you operate and where you move.
Can I ask a quick question?
And so I think a lot of times for Black businesses, what we have to determine is, particularly when we were talking about scale and moving up, because there will come a point where you're going to entertain, whether that's interest from outside or you're growing and you need more money to be able to grow more. That's what you got to determine. What do you value more, control or scale?
Can I ask a quick question?
Because it's rare that you're able to obtain one without compromising the other.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you ever, again, I don't know the particulars of how you have your business structured, but I hear a lot of people, like, when they have an idea, sometimes they go back and forth, they vacillate between, should I start a nonprofit or a for-profit? Did you ever, speaking of you, Kevin, did you ever think about starting a nonprofit for your business endeavors?
So we have both.
Both.
So okay. the Kings is for-profit, and we have a nonprofit arm as well.
Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So does Rosemary's Baby.
All right. Yeah. I mean, so are you available for people to contact you? And I'm not assuming this is free, Rosemary, but is that something that you do? Like, let's say I'm doing a nonprofit thing and I'm like, you know what? I just heard Rosemary on with Kevin and Nate. I'm going to reach out to her. Is that something that people can do?
Yes. They can contact us through thepedalsincorporation.com. So at any given time, you can contact me through thepedalsincorporation.com. Or, you can find that link through Rosemary's Baby's company as well.
Gone.
Rosemary,
relationship
what just happened? I lost you for a couple, like the last
Rosemary,
30 seconds we lost.
Oh, I said they can definitely reach out to me through thepedalsincorporation.com. And I enjoy helping small businesses and nonprofits. That's my hobby. So though I help small businesses start, scale, and create their foundational documents. And that's either for profit or nonprofit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've helped over 200 businesses. Now I think we're over $1 million in revenues for those businesses.
Wow. Wow. Like an uncovered gem here. I'm glad, as you were talking, I just remember when I was doing the show, I was paying attention to what you were doing. I'm like, man, she's doing something significant. And then as you were talking and then Alandis was talking, I was like, wow, these people are doers. I mean, Kevin, Terrace, Phil, you, I'm like, people, not just talkers, but doers. And I appreciate that energy. And I'm hoping through this show, and I can't speak for Kevin, but you may feel the same way. That's what this is all about. Like,
Absolutely.
it's like from time to time when I hear things, I'm like, man, I just want to hear your story, and maybe it can touch somebody, or we can get a little bit more information about what you did, and maybe somebody can apply it to what they, because we're talking about Avondale, but you created your whole thing, your own thing. And it's significant.
I started from my basement. I started my nonprofit from my basement. I actually started, so most people know we're about to be 10 years old, but I started Rosemary's Babies in 2013. So it was years before I ever even launched publicly to get that foundation. I got my 501c3 in 2016, and that's when I became public. But the work started 3 years before that. And then I had a lawn care business with my ex-husband. So people that's always like, oh, she don't know how to choose. I was married for 23 years. To shut up anybody that be talking mess about me. I was married for 23 years. And so, but I started at a landscaping company with him. Right now, I write books, I tour. I've been to California and all kinds of places. I speak on panels. There's a lot that I don't do. I just don't talk about it because it doesn't really, it's based off of which room I'm sitting in.
Right.
And that's what's most important, because when I'm talking about Rosemary's Babies, I'm not Rosemary, the speaker or the author or the politician. And so there have to be finesse, especially with a nonprofit, because you're not supposed to, nonprofits are considered bipartisan. So you have to be able to talk to people on both sides. So a lot of times when people are like, oh, she sound like a Democrat, or oh, because I've been in all the rooms, because I have to be right here in the middle as the CEO of Rosemary's Babies. Mm-hmm. However, my personal views lean right.
Yeah.
Right. I get it.
Hey, Nathan, Rosemary's story, Alandis' story, whoever's story, you're 100% right. Well, you hope that people hear it and it activates them. The most liberating thing for me was understanding the difference between people who have and who don't have is the doing, is the action, is the movement. A lot of people have really good ideas, they just don't move on it. And if they don't know how to move on it, they don't bother to try to educate or find people who can help them get the movement, right? And so the biggest thing is getting out of your own way, getting out the blocks, and it just starts with, hey, I got this idea, let me learn about it. Or is somebody already doing what I'm doing? Let me go find them out and find out how did they make it, and what can I learn, and how can I mold and shape. Rosemary says something that's critical though, is that you gotta be willing to invest in yourself. There's no way around it. She talked about, and I run into this so much about among people who want to do things, but they don't want to invest, even in an amount as small as $250. And I get $250 ain't the same for everybody. But no matter what it is, there's going to be an investment that you're going to have to make in your future that may cost you some money, may cost you more money than you think it should, or even that you feel comfortable with. But you got to make that initial investment. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. It's like when we do tryouts for our team, we charge a fee to try out. And so like a lot of dudes are like, well, why do I got to pay the fee to try out? That helps us recognize, are you serious about your journey or not? Mm-hmm. Because if you're willing to invest, you're going to get it back. If you make the team, you're going to get it back 20-fold. Yeah. Right. You're going to get it back 20-fold. But a lot of guys can't see that past that initial amount, right? They thinking about in the moment. And I get money may be tight and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, your ideas, why should anybody else? How can I go to somebody and ask them to invest in my idea if I'm not willing to if I ain't got no skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think there are certain things that are teachable, that are learnable, that are mentalities that young and old can benefit from, that can activate us and get us out there and actually doing things. You're never as powerless as you might think you are, or as you might feel that you are. And, as much as I talk, sometimes we talk race. I can't remember who said it on this last show, but it is a degree of truth to it, that there are white folks out here who will help you if you black, right? There are some white folks who will help you and don't want anything in return for that. I've come across them, I've worked with them, and sometimes we have this mentality that white folks are working against you. Some definitely are, but certainly there's some good white folk out there who have no problem imparting their wisdom, maybe even throwing a few dollars at you with no strings attached to help you make moves and make things happen.
But people got to understand too, like when I was building Rosemary's Babies company, people didn't understand I was helping people along the way. So a lot of people were like, "Oh, she don't support black." My whole family is black. That I didn't send people through college. I done did all kind. So it's like, what do you mean I don't support black? So I was giving along the way. We can't help everybody for free. Everybody can't get the same help. So a lot of times people will inbox me and they be like, "Can you be my mentor?" I don't have time no more to mentor nobody. You know what I mean? Like, so it's this, then people want to make these judgment calls like, "Oh, she thinks she's too big to do this." But it's like, do you know how many people I have mentored over the years, in the last 30 years of business, and so for free or whatever. And what people don't understand too, I sat in front of people for hours and it was wasted time where they never used the paperwork or they never got the business off the ground. So I agree with you, Kevin, like you gotta put some type of buy-in in, because otherwise you're wasting my time too. And the one thing as business owners we don't have is time, because time is money. And so again, even if it's a small thing, I used to write resumes for Mountain Dews. You know what I mean? Like, because my passion is to help people, but don't waste my time. So I just kind of want to put that out there for people that are like, "Oh, I called her and she said call her business person or her." Yeah, because now I don't have time to help all of these people for free. When you can look on the website, you can read my book, you can do all of these things, or you can pay the $2.99 for 3 hours of my time, and it's three hours of my time for $299, and I'm giving you the paperwork. But people don't want to pay that because they assume nonprofit means free. No, Rosemary's Babies has free services. Rosemary doesn't come along with that.
Right. I get it.
Babies give out all kinds of free stuff. But it's been great. Thank you so much again. If anybody wants to connect with me, I'm probably one of the most what do you call that? But you can get in touch with me anywhere on social media, inbox, text. You can book things through my website. You can find Rosemary's Babies Company and take tours to. We're having an event August the 1st. Of course, it's a fundraiser because that's what we got to do. We got to raise another $1 million. That's a whole nother story, but we have to raise another $1 million. And so I'm actively busy, and I appreciate being on the platform because it allows people to hear my true thoughts, especially those that are like, "She's a Trump, she's a Trumpy and all these things," but it helps people to see too. My views have never changed. I just, I went out, I was a candidate for Congress so that I could expound those views and change policy for my babies. I didn't win, but that won't stop my voice. And so thank you for giving me the platform.
I know you're busy. I know you're busy, Rosemary. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kevin, you got the Harriet Tubman t-shirt on. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but
I know that's it. Yeah.
I never liked the idea of Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Never liked the idea. I get it. That's supposed to be.
Why not? Why didn't you like it?
Well, like I was saying, I get it. I understand why people think that that's like an accolade. I get it. But I didn't like the idea because Harriet Tubman she was against the commodification of black bodies, correct? She was against reducing black people to currency.
Yeah, I got you.
So for me, putting her on currency would be antithetical, the exact opposite of everything she stood for.
Yeah.
So I mean, most people ain't gonna look at it like that, but I'm like, Harriet, of all the people, Harriet Tubman, that's not an honor to me.
That's I will say this, Nathan, that's a deep thought. One, I had not looked at it that way, and I think primarily because maybe it was a bit in the excitement of finally having a black face on money and knowing what that means in terms of American capitalism and that sort of thing, and I certainly didn't think that she was somebody who wouldn't have been I like a lot of people go about like who would have been a better choice than her for it. I mean, I think she's as good a choice as any black figure that you would have thought to put on money, whether that's MLK or who's ever on your Black Mount Rushmore of Americans to put on money. But I can see that. I mean, that makes sense to me. Like I don't have any problems with arguments that I can wrap my mind around, that I can see like that's a valid point. I can see like why a lot of people would feel that way from that standpoint, and I can't argue with that at all. From that perspective, if you didn't like it. I mean, for me, it's past time. I mean, if we can have slave owners on our money and walk around with that on our money, I feel like that there should be by now a black face on our currency. And I'm disappointed by and I don't know, I don't understand why it was going to take until 2030 to get this done anyway. I'm like, it was introduced under Obama. I get, Trump killed it when he came in or delayed it when he won the first time. But then when Joe Biden got in there, I'm like, okay, we about to get these Tubmans jumping off. And then it's like, well, it's going to take until 2030 to print the bills. And I'm kind of like, they're like, yeah, we got to make sure that they got all the security protocols and all that. And I don't know how long that takes. But it seems like 10 years is a long time to get that done.
It do, don't it?
Like, yeah. And so like, I'm disappointed that it was delayed long enough for Trump to kill it. And maybe if you get another Democratic president in, maybe they reintroduce it, maybe not with Harriet Tubman, but with somebody else. But I love the idea. And I'm disappointed. I mean, I can't front. I'm disappointed by that.
I'm not disappointed, and I stand on everything I said before. I still feel the same way about it philosophically. But once I heard that the Trump administration killed it, I'm like, hey, go ahead and do it. I'm like, because to me, it feels like they've got this whole whitewashing history thing. I'm like, y'all, it's the craziest thing, but it's where we are now. So I won't take us down that rabbit hole. That'll lead to a whole nother conversation. Twin Rights put Malcolm X on the currency. Yeah, that if we had Malcolm X on our currency, we'd be a whole different country. I think the currency should be notable philanthropists and people who have contributed to the common good and goal of mankind, whoever those people are. Not necessarily former presidents. I think it should be people that actually have created positive things for other people. But that's a whole nother alternate universe.
Maybe Booker T. Washington would be a better selection for the currency.
What's wrong with that? Yeah, and people who are known for like giving back in a very honest way to liberate and celebrate the human existence, whoever those people are. Those are the kind of people I think we should have on our currency. Because I think money should be about the greater good and not just about capitalism, although I'm not anti-capitalist at all. Trust me. I'm just saying, like, when you get to the point where you got everything you need and your kids got everything you need and their kids have everything they would ever want, you got to give back. You got to give some of that back. You may never know these people, but you got to give some of that back to me. Everybody doesn't feel the same way because you can't take it with you. So let's just use the money so that when you leave, that this world can be a slightly better place. And there's people that do that. There's a lot of people that do that. what was it? She was married to Bill Gates. She's a big philanthropist. She's giving away billions of dollars to HBCUs and cancer research and all kinds of things. I'm like, I respect it because they don't have to do this and you can't take it with you. So how many yachts can you buy? How many politicians can you buy? How many mansions? I mean, at some point you've got everything. So give back to somebody else so they can, have a good life. But I know that's Pollyannish and it's just not the world that we live in. I get it. I understand.
Yeah. I can't remember which wealthy person said this when they asked them. They said, well, how much is enough? You got everything. How much is enough? And it was like, just a little more. You know what I mean? Like, so how many more houses can you have? Just one more. How many more yachts can you have? Just one more. It's like there's always that mentality of just a little bit more, no matter how much you have. Maybe that's because there's some people who might look at somebody who's not a millionaire, but has something in there, has more than they have, that lives in their neighborhood. And they're like, well, how much more can you have? And that person is always trying to grind to get just a little bit more. So maybe that's something that's just inherently in us. Maybe that's a certain amount of selfishness and greed that lives in all of us to a greater extent. But I agree with you. I think, like, for me, I feel like if I had that kind of money, if I had Elon Musk money, like, it would be real easy to kind of like swoop in and solve a whole lot of problems.
Oh yeah.
For a lot of folks. And that's not to say they don't give. I mean, because he probably does. I mean, Musk, all of these rich people probably do give a fair share amount of philanthropy.
They don't. Musk doesn't. People have done analysis on that. Matter of fact, Musk is anti-philanthropy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody actually said it's Mackenzie Scott. You're right about that. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, she's sitting on billions. Mm-hmm. And so Elon Musk was in the news within the last 2 weeks criticizing her, saying she's giving away too much of her money to these different organizations and she's making the world a better place. And I'm like, bro, you sitting on $1 trillion. Like, what? You sit on $1 trillion. So like, get out of the way, choose your charity, like, or set it up yourself and set something up so that the next person can create whatever they're going to create and have a good life and stay out these streets doing crazy stuff because they're feeling desperate. And hungry, desperate people, I'm going to tell you, hungry, desperate people will do anything. We do not want hungry, desperate people on our streets, in our neighborhoods, anywhere near within 100 miles of you. You don't want that because it's going to cause the kind of headlines. It's going to make people afraid. We want people to have enough so they can go build their own and not have so less they want to come take mine. It just makes perfect sense to me. But everybody's different. Somebody called out Twin and said, how are you anti-DEI but pro Malcolm X? It was Sierra. Here she is. Twin is anti-DEI but pro Malcolm X. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I know. But listen, I want to thank.
They don't understand what DEI is. That's the thing that that Trump and the Republicans have been excellent about from the beginning, and even predating Trump. Whether you're talking about affirmative action or whatever it is. I mean, it's the same question that I ask Phil. Like, people in this country have no problem saying slavery and Jim Crow are awful, set black people back. They have no problem saying that in these modern times. And then this is where the trip comes in. Well, what do you think should be done to rectify, 400 years of slavery and, 6 decades of Jim Crow? What should be done? What should the same government that enforced those systems and subjected those people to things under those systems, what should that government be responsible for doing, for making that up? And that's the question that they don't want to answer. And that is what affirmative action and DEI policies have really been designed to do, which is not even make up for that in terms of giving people dollars, which would be the ultimate way to make up for it, the old 40 acres and a mule that you never got, or that some people got and most of them didn't, right? Like, that's the economic rectification would be a quick way to do that, but no way they're doing that. So when you suggest, okay, well, let's try to level the playing field, because we know for certain that racial discrimination, keeping people out of job. This is why I say that, like, that's the original affirmative action. is, segregation and discrimination policies that kept entire groups of people, blacks, women, whatever, from being able to compete, with white men in this country. That was the first affirmative action, and it was endorsed by the government.
That was the policy.
Yeah, that's policy, right? So even suggesting that you might put things in place that don't guarantee people anything, but says, hey, we're going to force these businesses to make sure that, one, you are opening up your pools to the point where you are getting diverse candidates to come in, right? Because that was always the thing. I know that was the thing for many years in the newspaper circles, where they would always say, well, we can't find we can't find the black people, right? Like, the reason why we're not hiring them is when we advertise for these jobs, they're just not advertising. We can't find them. That used to be the corporate line before, like, affirmative action. We can't find them. Like, all of these black people, qualified black people that you say they are, we can't find them. Okay, well, where are you advertising at, right? Are you advertising in spaces where black people are? Are you putting it on the Buzz? Are you in the Herald? Are you in are you in HBCUs? Are you actually advertising jobs in places where black people are at? No, they weren't. They were only advertising in places where mostly white audiences were. That's not equality either. So the maddening thing about it is people don't want to, and I see John 4-9 says Kevin is giving an argument why equity is not attainable. It's not about it. It's not about the attainability of everybody getting the same thing. It's about the effort, right? It's about making it available. It's about making the opportunity readily available. And then at that point, it's on me, right? So if I'm listening to Lincoln Ware every day and there's commercial after commercial about a job at such and such a place, and I don't go on that ain't on them. That's on me at that point. They have given me an equal opportunity to be able to apply and get into that process the same as anybody else. And that is all DEI is doing, and trying to make people more aware of the importance of diversity in the workplace means more dollars. The more people that you can cater your product to, the more product you're going to sell. So diversity makes sense. I don't understand why any corporation would be against diversity. Why would I not want to sell my products to as many people as possible? Why would I not want to have messaging that caters to all different types of people and audiences so that you can come buy my stuff? Like, and diversity just makes sense.
Right. And why would you not want diversity on your leadership table? Like, why would you not want that? Why would you not want to hear from different voices, different, backgrounds, different ethnicities, genders? I mean, that, to me, that just makes perfect sense. It makes you stronger. I think the companies that stay put with their diversity initiatives, and maybe they're not loud about it right now because they're just playing it smart with the current administration, and I get it. But I think those companies are going to end up winning in the very end. They're going to end up winning in the very end when you have diverse people around the table, because the world's diverse. You've got different perspectives. You're not afraid to be challenged. That's the best kind of leadership. You're going to get the best out of your team, in my opinion. But there's a lot of people, and the way you just described it is perfect. You're right. It's about, let's at least make the effort to try to post this job where we think the maximum amount of people are going to see it, rather than the same old places we always did, and we get the same type of candidate. That's DEI. What's wrong with that? I just don't. What's wrong with saying, let's make sure that all of our bathrooms and areas have wheelchair access? What's wrong? I just don't get it. But, it's because, politicians have been successful in using it as a weapon and convincing primarily white people that somehow you're losing something and somebody's taking something from you. And a lot of people, that's where they get stuck. They get stuck in those kind of feelings.
But they are losing something, Nathan. Let's not make any bones about it. The more diverse something is, white folks are losing something because they've dominated the space for so long. Like, if you've had full run of the sandbox, right? And somebody comes in and says, hey man, you've had these people surrounding the sandbox, keeping other people out so you could have it all to yourself. And now we're going to move those people out of the way. And the people that couldn't get in the sandbox before are now able to get in the sandbox and compete with you. You're losing something because you had the whole sandbox. Now you got to share that sandbox. So why white folks have an issue with DEI and diversity is, yes, they are losing something. They still had a control, but they definitely have less of it. And so anytime, but their control, what they don't want to come to grips with was the control that they had was artificially created, right? It was created. The control that you have was not because you were more qualified, not because you were superior. The space that you maintained was because there were mechanisms that intentionally kept other people out that you didn't have to compete with, right? You didn't have to compete with the intelligence and the skill level of somebody else. Now you do. And that's been baked into the cake of this country for so long. White folks are so used to seeing themselves everywhere. I've seen this in every place that I've gone to, Nathan. Newspapers where I've had control that have not been covering diverse communities before. When I come in with a diverse perspective and I say, hey, we're going to start going out to these communities, or we're going to start talking about these people, and we're going to start doing this, and it starts showing up in the paper, the first thing I hear unequivocally from white folks every single time is negativity. Oh, here you are pandering to this community or pandering to that community. It's always negative, but they never think about it from the standpoint of why weren't these communities being covered to begin with? Right?
Mhm.
Like they saw no value in it because nobody who was calling the shots saw value in it because they were coming at it from a particular perspective. So when I talk about this stuff, what I try to appeal to white folks with is get out of your feelings for a second and just think about what it is like for a person who has never had to, who for a considerable part of this country's history didn't have to compete against entire groups of people. And what would that do economically, socially, and a whole bunch of other things? And then the laws flip and says, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You know, so I get it. I see why they feel like, oh, stuff is being taken away, because it is. But what you had was artificially created to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a hard thing for them to accept because they want to feel like they were, and maybe they did. Maybe amongst the white men that you were competing against, that you work hard and you earn that within that framework. Can't take that away from you. But the reality is you wasn't competing against the broadest pool. So yeah, while you had to work hard against these white men, can't take that away from you. But you got to recognize that had other people been put in that mix, you may not have emerged as the top person.
You know what example I'm thinking of as you're talking Major League Baseball?
Yeah.
Before they absorbed those Negro League stats, it's like, yeah, you had it good. You was the all-time home run leader.
Right.
Until the brothers' stats got mixed into it, because you're right, it was artificially set up for you to not compete against all the real competition. Here's another thought. And I was just thinking this, I'm just throwing out random stuff. You got to go. I understand you're busy, man. It's a Friday. If you got to go, just let me know.
Man, we just chilling. I mean, at this point, you and me.
Yeah, we just vibing. But you know, I was thinking, and this is just random. This ain't no profound thought. Just tell me if you agree or not. But I have been doing a lot of reading and watching videos about China for various reasons. But then yesterday, I was going through some of my old comic books. I love Marvel comic books and X-Men, and I came across some of my old Black Panthers and started rereading some of the stories. And it dawned on me, you know what? China is Wakanda. China is the modern day Wakanda. Like homogeneous population, right? Technologically advanced. I've been watching these videos. I'm like, what are they doing there? It looks like the future from the videos. And then in terms of their military, nobody's gonna mess with them. So, and I was thinking, wow, that reminds me of the stories about Wakanda, right? Man, boy, have you seen these videos? Have you been to China? Have you seen what's going on over there?
I've not been to China, but I've seen a lot of the videos like what you were saying. And I've said this before. I think I think one of the advantages that China has
Yeah.
that
Politics.
America doesn't is their freedoms. It's like that when you have freedom, and this is why you have so many countries like Russia and China, why they argue against democracy and freedom, and why they try to get people to understand like this doesn't work, is because when you give people freedom of choice, they may make choices and make decisions. And when you run government in a certain way that might, delay or not move forward certain progressions because of the politics and the freedom to express, the freedom of speech and ways to express your ideas. I mean, think about how many great ideas, technological ideas that they have in other parts of the world that we should have, but we don't have here in the United States because of politics, like high-speed rail and things of that nature. When you go and look at other countries, like they have these transportation advancements that you would think in a country like the United States, we should have that. We couldn't even get high-speed rail in Ohio because of the politics, right? The freedom of that, of expression. In China, if Xing say make it happen, it's gonna happen, right? And
Right.
and if you express dissent, we can throw you in jail. We can shoot you. We can Vladimir Putin might poison you. I mean, so I think
that's a huge advantage they have. That's a huge advantage.
Huge advantage.
I read somewhere that in the last 70 years, China has lifted over 100 million people out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point you're making, the part of the reason why they're able to do things so fastly, like their transit system makes the United States look like we're in the Stone Age. Like people should go Google it. I mean, it's like a whole different world over there, but they don't have the political gridlock. They don't have the Democrat Republican thing. Because like you said, Obama came up with a great idea. It was an excellent idea, but purely because of politics, our governor, I think it was Kasich at the time, decided, no, we don't want that money. In China, they don't have that problem. It's one party rule. They say move. To your point, they move and they get it done for the betterment of the people, which is leading a lot of people to say, well, we need to end American democracy and move into fascism. It's people who cite China and the way that they move. I mean, that's a fascist one party rule. And people are saying, if we do that here in the United States, then maybe we can make the same moves that they're making. And there's people online, there's sizable enough people who are like, yeah, that's cool if we can get things done, if people can be safe. It's just amazing where we are in this moment in human history in the United States as it relates to China. And again, I was in college 30 years ago, and back then they were teaching us that China was rising. Like everything we're seeing right now, we have all these different actors like China, now Iran stepping into to be a global force. Political science teachers was teaching us about the possibility of that 30 years ago. So it's fascinating on some levels once I can extract myself and any emotions I have and just look at what's happening. It's amazing to see what's happening right now. Amazing.
Yeah, well, the one thing that people who make that argument about fascism and get things done in safety conveniently overlook the human rights abuses that take place in places like that. So if you don't mind sacrificing, human rights and freedom to move and talk how you want, if you're willing to trade that in for safety and technological advancements, then you might be a fan of fascism. But I think when those human rights abuses show up at your doorstep, you would probably change your attitude pretty quickly. So I think there are trade-offs to all of it. The freedom that we have is a great thing, but what comes along with that is the political gridlock and some of the things that are frustrating to all of us. The other thing that has allowed China's, and I think a lot of places in the world, and has really hurt America, is NAFTA, is free trade. And this was predicted by like a lot of union people back in the day when they passed it. And what you're seeing now is everything you're seeing today is a direct result of that.
True.
Corporations moving manufacturing facilities overseas where they don't have the same kind of labor laws that you have here in the United States, and you've got U.S. businesses that are having to compete in a global economic landscape against countries that don't have to live by the same rules and regulations that American companies have to do to compete. And right now, you know, many of these wealthy corporations and people behind them are making so much money with that, with having factories and stuff like that overseas, that it is very difficult to try to repatriate, you know, these businesses and their manufacturing things back in the United States, as Obama campaigned on that. Look, the last probably 5-6 presidents that we've had have sort of campaigned on this notion of trying to bring back, you know, jobs from overseas, and nobody can do it because these corporations are not motivated to do it. Why am I going to bring my factories and an entire workforce back to the United States where I'm going to be subjected to unions, EPA regulations, all of these other things that are going to cost me money and dig into my greedy profits, right? Where I'm not going to be able to make as much money. Nah, I'm gonna just leave all of that over. I'm gonna just leave all of that overseas and do my business as usual. So the going with free trade instead of fair trade, I think, is another thing that has kind of allowed China and some other places around the world to elevate themselves. And it hasn't really, I won't say it's been all bad for the United States because we get cheap products, right? We're not paying $2,000 for a 90-inch TV. You can fall into Walmart and probably get that around Christmas for like $500-$600, right? Instead of $4,000 if it was manufactured, you know, here in the United States with everything that it would probably cost to produce that same television. So
I don't necessarily agree with that. I know that business makes that argument. It's all about, I don't think I agree with that, but I think there are in total, but I think there's elements of truth in that. But I think that, I mean, you know, if you want a safe society, clean air, you know, clean water, then you got to put some limits on what capitalism can do to sell their products. Because if not, you just have polluted air and water, and people would just be making as much money as possible. I don't think we should sacrifice the earth just so people can make money, even if it creates jobs. But back to China though, it's fascinating to me. I mean, it is fascinating. Like, if all the countries to studying China and what they have become is at the top of the list for me. Fascinating. Yeah. And our political gridlock is what's pushing us behind, because the diversity of this country is a real strength that other countries don't have. But our strength is being turned into a weakness and being used to basically kick the legs from underneath us. Have you seen these Chinese EV luxury cars, man?
Yep.
Man, it's like something from the future. I'm like, why don't we have that here? And that's the reason why they banned those cars in the United States, because it would destroy the American car manufacturing market. Like, how did we allow this to happen? One last thing. I saw a video in which this guy, I forget his name, but he's somebody with the Chinese government. And he said, he was talking about billionaires and ultra wealthy. He said one of the big difference between Chinese and United States is that in the United States, the billionaires run the government. They have a lot of control. But he said in China, the Chinese government controls the billionaires. And I thought about Jack Ma. You know who that is? Famous Chinese billionaire. He started talking about what the Chinese government was doing with, I think it was the Falun Gong or the Buddhist movement. And he got disappeared for a long time. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's an incredible advantage when you can make a decision and then every level of government is working to make that happen, as opposed to our system where it's Democrat and Republican. One might get in the White House and start you in one direction. The other guy might get in and take you out. And it's like, how do we get ahead? We got to get back to doing what's best for the people, but I just don't see it, man. It's just too much money in politics. And the politics are just too divisive at this point. But we'll see. You know, maybe with the next election, something will change.
But think about what you just said. So that's the difference between communism and capitalism, right? So in America, we operate under a capitalistic system. So think about all of the things that we complain about Donald Trump, right? The oligarchs. We talk about the oligarchs, Donald Trump trying to call the shots from the presidency and control business and the stock market. Like, that's kind of what G does. And that's why Trump looks at people like that and admires them as strongmen. But in America, we reject that. We put so if you look at China and you admire that, then on some degree you got to admire what Donald Trump is trying to do in America, because that's what he's trying to do, you know, with the presidency of the United States. And the majority of people reject that because that's not what American freedom and capitalism is built off of. It's a different type of government, a different type of economic system. And so as much as you hear these terms tossed around, communism, Marxism, socialism, all of these types of things, that's why I say a lot of people use that language, but don't actually understand what that is and what that actually looks like in practice, or what that would look like in practice, here in the United States. It's very different than what we've got and what we've had. And I think most people, if it showed up in its purest form on their doorstep, they wouldn't like it. It's like they say, capitalism and democracy is the best form of government, except, or is the worst form of government except all the rest of them, right? There's always some type of trade-off that you're going to get. Our problem, like I said, the biggest problem that America has is corporate greed, right? Like that is the number one issue that we have. Because if corporate business interests, American interests, wanted to just say, hey, kind of like what we were saying about shopping with the black business owner, right? Are we willing to pay a little bit more? Are we willing to take a little bit less in profit to bolster the greater good of everybody within the country? American middle class is falling. China is rising. They are our biggest competition. They are the biggest threat, global threat to the United States right now. If we want to stay in competition with them, we're going to have to change, the way that we think about how we pull together as a country to accomplish some of the progress that we need to get. You're not going to get EV cars in the United States like they got in China, because there's too much oil and gas money, right? There's too much money. There are too many people in the United States who profit off of oil and gas. Donald Trump is even talking about coal, right? And part of that argument is, you look at China and what they're doing. If we don't get on the ball, like, that is the industry that they are going to dominate. So when it becomes a global phenomenon, who are people going to be looking to for that? They're going to be looking to China, not the United States.
Yeah, it's already happening.
I mean, Elon, I don't get Elon Musk, because he gets it, because that's all Tesla is trying to pump out is this. I mean, have you looked at like some of the stuff that Elon Musk is coming up with that is environmentally friendly? I mean, he's developed these what are they? Smart houses. They're little small houses, not anything like you or I could live in, but they're kind of like tiny houses.
Yeah, looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, but they're completely environmentally friendly, and they collect rainwater, it recycles it, all of that kind of solar panel powered, I mean, like, this is how this guy is thinking, along with what he's doing with electric engines and all of that stuff with the cars that Tesla is producing. Yet, he backs the most anti-environmental politicians possible. And the only thing that I can think of as to why he does that is that there's got to be some regulatory things that he's willing to swallow, because it allows him to do business at a more efficient and a more profitable rate, that he would rather side with the anti-regulation Republicans than to side with more liberal progressive wings that are for renewable energy and environmental protection. So I imagine it's probably a tough juggling act for him.
Yeah, Elon is definitely, I've always called him a Bond villain. Like, he's really, he knows he's in power right now. Because again, people don't know the story. I mean, his companies are bankrupt. They kept getting subsidies from the government, in particular, Obama's government, that helped keep them afloat, which goes back to a point Tamaya was doing. Like, we do that with these big businesses. Like, the government will get involved and give them money in one way or form or another to keep them afloat. What Tamaya is saying, like, look, these small businesses, first-time business owners, depending on where they are, we should be looking at them as like pioneer investors, and maybe we got to help them stay afloat until they find, their traction. And I like the idea of it. I like the idea of it. Yeah. You know, we hear about these big companies getting tax abatements. That's what they need to stay afloat. Well, if I'm a small business owner, first generation, I might need whatever, a couple grand from the city stay afloat fund to get me to where I'm going. And I think that some people need that. They need the capital, and they also need some smart people around them to help them make the right decisions. Because I think you kept making a point, and I agree with it. Like sometimes people get, because I felt that before when I was dealing with Avondale. I was super excited about the idea of it, right? But at the same time, I kept my eyes on the numbers, and I just emotionally I wanted to work, but financially I couldn't make it work. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to walk away from it. But there are some people who get emotionally attached, the grand opening, the ribbon company cutting, and, you know, they need a huge amount of foot traffic just to make it work. And that traffic just isn't there yet. Not talking about Avondale, but in particular, you know, any place in general, shall I say, any place that somebody might be thinking about. Northern Kentucky seems like they on a come up.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they on the come up over there. Every time I go over there, I'm hearing about new businesses. Looks beautiful, all kind of shops and stuff. Not saying anything negative about downtown Cincinnati, but they seem to be thriving and getting a lot of attention. So,
yeah, and I think you go through fits and starts with that, because I remember, you know, when Newport on the Levee first came out, it was popping over there, and they had a lot of development, and then they kind of went through a rough patch where they lost a lot of businesses and a lot of things that were over there on the levee that when it first opened up wasn't there anymore, and now they're catching some momentum and whatnot. That's what I say, you know, like business is volatile, right? You know, no matter black, white, or whatever, business, you know, businesses can be here today and gone tomorrow. We remember the ones that have staying power and tend to forget about the hundreds that, you know, never made it more than a couple of months, right? Because, you know, the customer base wasn't there or the business plan was bad. And so, I mean, somebody was jokingly saying earlier, they brought up Hook's Chicken, right? Like there's some businesses that you can look at and you can say, if the product is good, now you can't have trash, but if the product is good, it's probably not going to be a losing proposition. And I'm not going to just put it in a black neighborhood. I'm going to say good chicken works everywhere. If you can fry that bird up and make it good, chances are you're going to be successful, whether you're in a black neighborhood, white neighborhood, wherever. Everybody likes chicken. It ain't just black folks that like it. But particularly if you got good chicken in a black neighborhood, it's going to sell. That's not going to not work. More novelty things, maybe not. You know, I mean, I thought the cereal bar idea was a cool idea.
I was just about to bring that up.
I thought it was a cool idea, but is that the type of business that can work in Avondale at the current state that Avondale, you know, not a thriving, not a fully redeveloped Avondale with everything, but in the Avondale that business tried to come up in, was that the right place and the right time for that business? Because so much of it is timing, right? You might have a great idea, you too soon, you too early, or you're in the wrong spot. It doesn't mean it was a bad idea or a bad business. It just means you might have been too soon, too late, or just in the wrong place. And so those are the types of things I think, as you know, you make business decisions like, okay, good idea, bad location, you know, bad idea, good location, maybe something else in there works, right? But I agree with you that because small businesses employ the majority of people, there should be more emphasis and more focus on helping those businesses stay afloat. I would say more so than even the big, large corporations. Like they're the ones that make the highlights. They're the sexy headlines when one of them locates into your city. But the reality is most people are working at the small mom and pop places trying to make ends meet. And, you know, maybe more resources, more attention at the city, state, and federal level need to be focused on that. say what you will about Steve Shabbat, that was kind of one of his claim to fames when he represented, the first district. In fact, I think he was the chairman of the small business committee when he was in Congress. When he was in the House, he might have been the chairman of that committee. But he forever talked about that, right? Like, how do you help small business? What can you do with during COVID? The paycheck protection and the small business loan initiatives were things that he was heavily behind, all targeted and aimed at small business, keeping small businesses alive. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Let's talk about some of the crew members behind their back.
I'm down for it. Who we going at?
Let's talk about Rosemary. I'm enjoying Rosemary on the crew, man. I really am. And I know she had her stuff that everybody was publicized about. She sent me a message after the first time she was on. She was like, thanks for not bringing that up. And I thought to myself, I never even thought about it, because the real story is her experience and what she's built. That's the real story. Mm-hmm. I understand that the salacious stuff, then we talked about having her on, and I'm glad in hindsight that we didn't have her on to discuss anything like that, because I think that would have been buried in the headline. The real headline is what she's built and just her experience, and even her standing her ground, in terms of being a Black Republican. And she differs from Terrace on some of the issues. I noticed that she was like, nah, you're on your own, bro. But I'm enjoying her. What's your take?
No, I love the collection of crew members that we have, and the different points of view and the debates that we have, even the sometimes spirited debates, that we have on this show. And I think it makes for a richer conversation, because I like what somebody said in the chat. It was earlier, and they were like, man, I love this show because 1 minute I'm totally agreeing with somebody and they points, and then the next minute that same person is saying something I don't agree with. And I thought that was just a great comment, because what it outlines is all of us are more than a political party label that somebody wants to slap on you, whether that's Republican, right, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, right wing. The reality is that we're all probably a composite of a lot of different things. I tell people all the time, I'm way more conservative than probably people think that I am, in a lot of different areas, and it comes out on this show with some of the things that we talk about. Yeah, there's some things that, because of my spiritual background, because of my fiscal conservancy and some experiences that I have, there are certain ways that I think about particular things. But then there are also perspectives that I have as a Black man that are very liberal, that might be very progressive. So depending on what topic we talking about, and even the intricacies of that topic, you might be like, well, he all over the place. Well, I'm not really all over the place. It's just that sometimes there's nuance within arguments that we don't like to acknowledge, right? And the nuances make it harder for you to take a black and white stance on issues, which we love to do. I'm blanking on the author's name right now. Baldwin, James Baldwin.
Okay.
James Baldwin once said that, America is an extremely complex country that insists on being simple-minded. And I just thought that was so profound, that, getting across the point that most of these issues and topics that we talk about are incredibly complex. They're deep. A lot of them are based in our experience and perceptions, but we insist on trying to discuss them like they're simple solutions, easy solutions to these things. Because if they were, we wouldn't be talking about them. Somebody would have solved it by now. But people are complex. They're messy. So when somebody says who would like to condense somebody like Rosemary to her experience, right? Whatever that experience was, I think that's incredibly dehumanizing. I think it is incredibly disrespectful.
Diminishing, right. Yeah. Dehumanizing might not have been the right word. Diminishing is the right word. To reduce her to a messy
point in their life, because if any of us, if the messiness of any of our lives were exposed publicly like that, most of us are lucky because ain't nobody checking for you like that, right? Most people who are involved in some mess, you ain't gonna wind up on the front page of the Inquirer because ain't nobody checking for you, ain't nobody looking for you. But she put herself out there through her nonprofit, her business, her pursuit of public office, that put her in the crosshairs of everything that she does is subject to scrutiny. And when you live in that space, I mean, it's the double-edged sword of being a public-facing person. You get all of the benefits that come with that, and you catch all the slings and arrows that come with that when stuff don't go your way, when failure hits you, when mess happens to you. But I think it's a mistake to reduce anybody to their worst moment. So yeah, I'm glad she's on the show. I was glad we had three sisters on here today. I have to say, the sisters certainly made it interesting, the conversation today, and it was a refreshing difference from having to fight you and Phil and Terrace twice a week. So I was glad about that. Let's see. I think. Oh yeah, there you go. I know you was.
Hey, sorry about that, man.
I know
the wifey came in. I got distracted for a second, man. I got to roll out, but I appreciate me. Great show, and we'll be back on Tuesday.
All right. See you, man. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, bro. Take it easy.
Thanks everybody in the chat. Thanks for